Welcome back to WRPL, the podcast where we talk about all the things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I am Steven.
How you doing, Steve? And
I'm doing well, Ben. How about you?
I'm okay. I'm tired as hell, but, duty calls.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a main topic. We don't have one major thing to talk about. We have, 15 little things to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't do a normal episode last week. We did our Year bracket.
One media bracket.
Year one media bracket, yep.
Just beautiful title, rolls off the tongue.
So now we're just playing catch up on the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that we could have talked about last week and even more this week. So let's just get straight into it. Do you want to just start with the weekly topics, the WRPL and the God Hot D?
Sure. Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with WRPL, I guess,
okay,
because it's not the freshest in our minds.
Okay, yeah, and it'll probably be nice and quick.
So
last two episodes, was that episode 4 and 5?
Episode 4 and 5, correct.
As I said earlier, you're going to have to lead me on this one because I don't quite remember everything. I remember really enjoying this last episode. I think it was my favorite so far.
Yeah, I think what's been nice from this episode, now, in the beginning, I greatly praise the show, but I also recognize its faults. I am enjoying the show, but I understand that it's kind of slower pace than I think what some people would like. But now we're getting to the back half of the season. It's now okay, we've done 5 episodes of setup. Now things seem to be, it looks like they're going to head into more like the epic battle from this next episode. It's things are happening now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the last couple episodes, and we see the origins of Mithril, which I found out apparently is made up for the show. Mithril was just something they found. It wasn't some magical being.
Why not? Why not tie it all together in the Balrog and digging too deep? They gotta dig for something if they're digging too deep, and if it was just gold and rubies, that's really boring. And it seems like it's better that it's not just greed for them to keep digging. It's something never found before.
Yeah. But I do like that. I mean, pretty much everything I've said universally, it's even if you don't like the show, you like Durin and Elrond's relationship. And it is kind of the shining bright spot of the show. And my favorite part of this past episode was Elrond not really breaking his oath and going hey, man, my people wanted me to fuck you over, and they're all going to die unless you help me.
Yeah.
And he's just wait, so I decide if the elves live or die?
The fate of the elves in my hand?
Oh, just the perfect opportunity for a dwarf. He's just all right, man, come on, let's go.
and was that enough for him, just the fact that, he will have power over the elves? Because he seemed to get on board real easily of, hey, man, this super secret thing I wasn't supposed to say anything about? Well, my whole people need it, otherwise they're going to die. And he's just all right, man, cool, let's do it. Wow, that was just it was so easy for him to just go, I know you swore to me and on the grave of your children that you would never speak of this, but then it's just 180 and it's okay, yeah, sure, fine.
Well, yeah, it was a 180 because he wants to help his friend. It wasn't it was I liked that it wasn't the Game of Thrones thing. It was how do I use all this stuff to my advantage? It's oh, no, innocent people need my help.
Sure, but
it's they're my favorite people, but I don't necessarily want them all to be dead.
But if you were him, you would have been okay, cool. That sounds like a reasonable thing. Can you show me any evidence that this is real? You want to show me the blight on the tree, all these things. Sure. He's okay. Oh yeah, this super, super strong and light thing that can turn the tides of battle and everything. Yeah, we need it because we're gonna die or something. You want to help us? Yeah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, fair enough. But maybe it's just the matter of Elrond wouldn't lie to me because he's my friend, and you know what? Fine. And we're also steamrolling this stuff. And then we also have Galadriel and Halbrand still hanging out in Numenor. They're heading off to war to go to the Southlands and fight some orcs. He was reluctant in episode 4, but it looks like by the end of episode 5, he's on board, literally on board the ship.
Reluctance, and then even in up to almost to the last scene, it's I'm not doing it.
Rousing speech.
Yeah, and then takes his little necklace back, and then cut to him in armor on the boat. I don't know. I don't want to say it felt rushed, but it just was like obvious. And like, oh, I don't want it. It's just very Jon Snow-esque. But I don't know. I don't care about that story at all. I don't care about him being the lost king of these people who are swearing themselves to the bad guys. So I don't really, care all too much about the story except for how it is connected to the building of Mordor. And I like this episode more than any of the other ones because now all the pieces.
Would you say you like it more door than before?
No, I would not say that. You would say that.
I would.
You could finally see how all the stories are connecting to each other. So before it was just like this little piecemeal of semi-interesting things with not very interesting characters. But now that it's all coming together, like, oh, okay, now I'm putting the pieces together and I am enjoying it a bit more.
The only thing that's kind of still separate is the Harfoot stranger storyline.
Sure. And then who were those people that were like found his burnt crater?
Yeah, so I watch a YouTube channel now called Nerd of the Rings, and he does like deep dives into like the whole history of Tolkien in every aspect and tons of videos. He's great. And now he does episode breakdowns of the show, and I watch and he's calling them like the cultists right now because they don't have an official name. Like if you go, I think on the IMDb, like those characters have specific like titles. Like one's called the I don't even fucking remember the Absterek or something like that. I'm gonna butcher that name, but it's just like they have titles, but they we don't know who they are quite yet. It's like, are they hunting this thing to try and like kill it, or is it like, oh, this is the thing that they worship and they're
the sign is
coming,
here, and,
coming to collect.
But they
it.
seemed kind of evil, but
I mean that person was definitely hired based on the evilness of their face.
Absolutely. So,
but that could just be a misdirect of just because someone looks evil doesn't make them evil.
Yeah. If I'm going to make a wild guess, I'm going to say these were humans that did follow Sauron. So it's like they're still human looking, but they got some fucked up tendencies. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, it was the first appearance of them. We had a Galadriel sword fight scene, which I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I like that bit. I like seeing people doing things really, really well. So that was fun. Her kicking some butt. Let's see. Yeah, we had the Stranger doing magic Hulk smash slam attack and sending the wolves flying. Breaking his arm and then flash freezing it to heal. And all they caught up with the other Hobbit like people, and they were just like. That one lady was just like, just take their wheels and let them die.
Yeah.
Like, damn, lady.
Oh, man.
Brutal.
She's the Karen of those hobbits. She's awful.
It's like,
the idea
relax.
of just like, oh, it's one thing. If you get left behind, you can't keep up. That's on you. It's another thing to be like, we're going to actually cripple you and leave you to die.
Yeah.
So hopefully one of those weird wolves comes and eats her.
But I mean, they said after they got saved from the wolves, it's like, oh, everyone's on board now. So like everyone's cool with that guy being there.
We didn't like you because you're weird and different and an outsider, but because it benefits us, now you're cool.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I'm enjoying the show. Oh, and the other thing we got to see is the vision of the destruction of Numenor.
Sure. Yeah.
Which I did some research. Do you want to know how that goes down? Or would you like to be surprised?
I'll be surprised because there was a guy at work that told me we were talking about it, and he said like, yeah, and it's cool that it's actually gonna happen, and a big wave's gonna come and take them all out, and it's like, cool, dude, cool. A vision could mean other things. That it didn't necessarily mean a huge wave was gonna get them. It could have been the wave of evil armies crashing over our borders, something like that. But he all but confirmed it, which I don't know. He may be full of shit, but I'd like to be surprised.
Okay. I mean, what I'll say is I don't know if the show will do what the books did in terms of like things that may occur in the future. Okay. But I was surprised to know like, oh, that's what may or may not cause this thing interesting.
Okay.
And I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And I just wonder if that'll be a thing that happens in season 5 or the end of like season 2 or something like that. Because I'm not quite sure. Because obviously, I think season 5 will end in the battle that we see at the very beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring, the last alliance of men and elves that to cut the ring off of Sauron.
Kind of a weird ending of a show. I'd be like, we finally defeated him. Now let's destroy the ring. Nah. The end.
You know what happens next.
There was something I wanted. Oh, yeah, I just can't wait till Sauron shows up. Because I know, like, he could come in any form, and if he's with the dwarves, he looks like a dwarf, or he could look like an elf. He could look
Sauron
like an
the
elf.
Deceiver.
He
Yep.
could be, I mean, we could already have met him for all we know.
Every episode, I'm just like, you know what? I think this guy is Sauron, or this person's Sauron. It's like, you know what? And I don't know if we have seen him, but I wouldn't be surprised if we have, or like if they wait till season. I don't want them to wait till the end of like season 4. Like the last shot of season 4 is like, here's Sauron, and then
he needs to show up this season.
Yeah, I hope that we see him sooner. Maybe not this season, but definitely next season. But I thought, in the old man who's just like, I want to join your guys' cause. I'll join Sauron, and he makes him like kill the kid. Yeah. I thought that old guy was Sauron for a second, because I was like, oh, well, he's like, when they were just like, we can all fight back, and they were like, yeah. And he's like, well, no, we're not gonna do that. I thought like that was Sauron the Deceiver going like, look, guys, we're all gonna die. We should go join this guy's team.
I heard he's really cool and has a big dick.
I thought that was Sauron going like, I'm gonna cut this army in half or whatever and take people with me. I thought that was like the secret move.
And then like confronting like the elf general guy and like, I kneel to Sauron to see how he would play, and then reveal himself like, you're actually a true believer, yada yada yada.
Yeah, because it just seemed like this old man was so evil for no reason, or not necessarily so evil.
That's where their people were from, They worked with
Sauron, but it's been so long. It's been like thousands of years. It's just like, why is this guy on such like the Sauron hype train? And it's just like he knew about the blade and everything, and he was like, have you heard of Sauron? And it's just, I thought that was him going like, have you heard of me, kid? Wink.
Wink.
So the fact that it seems, at least from the context of the show, it wasn't him. I was like, I thought I cracked the code. But anyway,
no, I'm just waiting for the time where I don't know his name, but the guy who's building the forge, the guy who makes the ring,
Celebrimbor.
Yeah, that he'll just be like, oh yes, and here's my friend Timothy who helped me with the plans, and it's like dark and evil guy comes in with like bright red cloak, and it's like, you look like a friendly chap, and just be completely obvious.
The classic fantasy name, Timothy.
Last thing I want to talk about for Lord of the Rings is I just find it funny that when it starts, like before even do you want to skip the recap, it comes up like, do you want to turn on the subtitles? Trust us, there's weird names and weird places and weird languages. And in the recap, the Dwarf King said something for about 6 seconds, and I was just like, I see why they put that up top. I didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. Because I don't see that on any other show ever.
I haven't noticed that, but fair enough.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
I understand, and this is like, I've talked about it on our podcast before. It's just like, there's a reason fantasy isn't for everybody, because it's oftentimes very difficult, like with world building and explaining a bunch of characters. And it's not just explaining characters; it's memorizing these people's fucking names. So I get it.
Yeah, and then having this and Game of Thrones going at the same time, and Game of Thrones has the problem of there's about 50 names for everyone in the entire world, and they reuse them a bunch, and it's like we just got a Joffrey now, so now there's another Joffrey in the mix, and it could get jumbled in my old man brain.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about Rings of Power in comparison to Game of Thrones is, so far in Game of Thrones, we're just gonna keep calling it Game of Thrones instead of House of the Dragon.
Yep.
That
I think we're calling it Lord of the Rings, and it's
touche. Is that it just seems like, so far anyway, that in House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, that it's just every episode is like so dire and so bleak, and there's not a lot of fun. Like there's some good jokes and stuff from time to time, like the Queen's son calling his little brother a twat, and just like in the previous episode we had Protector, she has dragons, you fucking cunt. like there's some jokes in the show for sure, but it's just so bleak, where like the one thing I like about Lord of the Rings in comparison to that is that there is some semblance of like hope and joy in the show, which has been riddled throughout Tolkien's work, and in Lord of the Rings, the films themselves. It's just like, it was, there was dark, evil times, but there was always joy intersected in there, where there's like zero joy in this. It's just like every move you make is another bad move into another bad situation. It's just like, Jesus Christ, can someone like crack a fucking smile every now and then?
Never. Yeah, and you can tell in Rings of Power that there are people who are falling in love and having relationships and have like genuine connections with these people, whereas in Game of Thrones it's just there's no love. It's all duty. It's all because of family obligation and
keeping the bloodlines pure by having sex with your half brother's cousin.
Yeah, I don't think watering down means pure, but
yeah, it's just like cutting the cocaine constantly. It's like, technically it's still cocaine, but
well, it's just like with Kit Kats. You know, whenever they have the messed up ones, they throw it into the mix and it breaks down, and that's what all the filling is in the middle of Kit Kats. So they just recycle all old, unused, broken stuff. So there can technically possibly be Kit Kat from the very early stages of when Kit Kats were made, remnants still in that mix.
Well, in that case, that might be the most pure version of Kit Kats, because you're getting Kit Kats imbued in more Kit Kats.
Yeah, for years and years and years.
Yeah, huh.
Yeah. I didn't know that's what they do with like Dum-Dums. When they're at the end of the batch of one, and they start another one. That's what their mystery flavors are. They're just the in-between batches that mix two flavors together. And then once they get that flavor out, then the rest of the coconut comes in.
Well, they were Smarts, but they're so inbred now that they became Dum-Dums.
So House of the Dragon, or the really gross, confusing, incestuous marriage show. Last 3 episodes have all been weird marriages and hooking up with family members and then marrying your... What is she doing? She's marrying her son to her half-sister by the end of it. It's just real awful.
Well, she offered to.
Yes.
Well, so last week's episode was the wedding episode. Another wedding in Game of Thrones that doesn't go well.
Yeah, but only one dude dies.
Yeah, it wasn't a horrible disaster, but it definitely set the stage of bad things to come. We had Sir Kristen.
I keep calling him Tristan when I'm talking to other people. Sir Tristan.
Sir Kristen is just like, hey, girl, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I'll love you forever. And she's like, nah, boy, bye.
Like the worst offer ever. Hey, give up all the riches and power and the not needing for anything to get on a boat and go across into a foreign land where you have nothing just because I'm a hunky dude.
Yeah. Which is like what so many like romance novels are kind of like. That idea is great. But then you get there and just like, oh, maybe I don't have anything in common with this dude. Or maybe, oh yeah, it was nice being rich and powerful. Like now it's like everyone thinks I suck.
If she offered it and he was like, no, you have a duty, you know, there's a little more romance there. But him trying to tell her to give up everything that she has is just a dumb move.
Yeah. But then she has to marry her. I'm not even going to. Has to marry.
Cousin.
Yeah, cousin. Because, yeah, it's her.
No, because.
Father's.
That's not his sister.
Oh, that's his aunt.
No, that's his cousin.
His cousin.
So
correct.
marries her second cousin.
Jesus Christ.
I think it's her second
cousin. The Valerians.
Yes.
She marries a gay man.
But they do the most logical thing that always drove me nuts in these sort of things. Because it's always like, you look at Robert, and Robert's always running out and having mistresses, and he probably has bastards everywhere. But like, if you just work these things out, if you're gonna have to put up with it anyways, have a conversation and work these details out. And they actually do. And 3/4 are on board, and one absolute moron has to ruin everything.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves in shows is, and I know it's just like, well, if they have a conversation, then there's no drama. We don't have a show if people are necessarily logical all the time. And like, you can have a character do illogical stuff because they're under duress or whatever. But like, so many, like watching the show sometimes, it's like, just fucking talk to that person for 2 seconds and this problem would be solved. Or it's like, oh, they're about to go talk to somebody, but they overhear them say something, but that's taken out of context.
Yeah,
so
they
the back
leave
half.
before they hear
So
it's that sitcom bullshit.
Yeah.
This is like things you do in King of Queens or Everybody Loves Raymond.
Exactly.
It should not be in Game of Thrones.
So the fact that, yes, they had a conversation like, look, I'll have sex with whoever I want. You have sex with whoever you want. We just do our duty.
Pump a couple babies in me every couple of years, and we'll be good.
We'll be golden, and everyone can just be copacetic. And that worked for the next decade, and so that's great.
Yeah. I'm surprised that like she even still maintained a relationship with him after like almost screwing everything up and killing her husband's side piece on their wedding day. I'm surprised she didn't like have him banished just to like be safe. Did she really care about him all that much? It just seemed like she was horned up for her uncle and he was there.
Yeah.
And it's like that's all really where I felt it was going. But it's like, was she deeply, madly in love with him? Why didn't she do anything? And why didn't this guy get punished? Why wasn't he removed from his position?
Well, he was going to punish himself at the end of the episode.
Sure,
but then the queen comes in and it's just like, hey, come work for me kind of thing.
Sure.
And so it's just like, okay, well, yeah, if I can't be with her, I'll help destroy her, I guess, which is healthy male logic. But
you would think Rhaenyra would see him being cozying up with the queen and think something's up. Like, why would she continue to sleep with this dude? I don't know.
No, you're talking about Kristen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she wouldn't, and she hasn't.
But they're... Yeah, more than likely her two oldest kids are his.
No.
Right?
No, not at all.
Okay. Damn you, time jumps and recasting. I can't tell who anybody is. Okay, so then...
I mean, I guess maybe her firstborn could be his, but I think...
Then who is that fucking dude?
The knight that got banished at the end of this episode? That was just...
the Hand's son.
Yeah, so like when Kristen went out of service, I assume this guy kind of stepped in. So she made him his side piece, had his 3 babies, and like So when you fast forward 10 years and you're like, I forgot this guy was in the last episode.
Yeah,
but he was. I had to look it up.
So did we not see Tristan at all?
Kristen was in this whole last episode.
But no, but
they had the fight in the courtyard. And he was talking to the queen a bunch. Like he was. No,
that was the dude with the cane. That's the Hand's other son.
Yeah,
that's not the same dude. That's not Kristen.
Who do you think Kristen is?
Kristen was the dude she slept with 2 episodes ago, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then he killed the queen's new husband's boyfriend.
Correct.
And then what happened to him?
He started working for the queen. Not Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra's not the queen.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was the courtyard fighting with the kids.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And now you got me all jumbled up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
so that's the confusing thing, and they're like, "Oh, look, you know, the princess, her babies look like this other person, and we're just supposed to assume she's sleeping with her new guard, but it was never really established that would possibly thing. That was not handled very well. Yeah,
that was the thing that was kind of jarring, because like it's from the show, it made it seem like, oh, I should know who this person is, and I totally forgot. Like I said, he was in the last episode. But yes, you're just so quickly supposed to go like, it's been 10 years. And she hasn't slept with Kristen in 10 years, so whoever these kids are clearly not her husbands. So it must be this guard, the head of the commander of the King's Guard, or the Knights, or what's it called? The City Watch. Sorry. Okay. Yes, and then so he gets banished and then murdered by secret assassins, by his own brother, and the Queen's kind of upset about it, I guess, but. Yeah, so they're not really getting along. No,
but the queen has just turned into a turd. She was just doing a nice deed for her dad, and now she's really let power go to her head. But it's been like 14, 16 years. It makes sense that she would be this way.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying it's ramping up. We had a new dragon introduced, I think, this episode.
Fat, ugly, swamp horse looking thing.
Yeah, it's just like. I guess if you're kind of like, oh, what would an oceany sea, like if a dragon dived down into the middle of the ocean, got like coral stuck and is like covered in, and almost looked like it'd be covered in like fishing nets it almost looks like a underwater zombie
it'd be
kind of dragon.
a ghost pirate dragon.
Yes, a ghost pirate dragon would be a good, yeah. But I thought it looked awesome. Like in comparison, like I like that all the dragons clearly look different and they kind of take
Very
on
different.
sort of aspects of the rider and stuff. Even though like this woman's gorgeous, and the dragon's ugly as shit. But I just like that. Oh, it's kind of like, which also doesn't make sense that like if all these dragons are like pretty, you think they would all just be like the same colors, but they all just have like
just random.
They're just random colors and random attributes. I don't know.
Because that little one that they fed the goat to had like little things on the back of its head. It was definitely more dinosaur. That some are like very okay. This is more crocodile. This is more straight lizard. This is more snake. And this was more like velociraptor. But I like that they're all very very different.
Yeah,
from
me
each
too.
other.
And then we also introduced to now Rhaenyra's and the Queen's kids, and them just going like, "You're all destined to hate each other," and they're just like, "Why? That's dumb." And they're just like, "'Cause you need to," and they're like, "Okay." And this is the problem with like, you know, why you need to be a good parent and raise your kids right, and you know, not teach them hate.
But I like
because
that.
they're just gonna go be like, "All right, you're right." I mean, I understand like it's different because you know in your position of power and people are gonna come after your position. It's like, oh, I could just me being alive makes people want to kill me. Like I get it.
But I do like that the queen's eldest son is just kind of like, well, then I won't be king. Like, I don't give a shit. Let's let my half sister's kid do it. I don't give a shit. Like, no, you must
let the hate flow through you. So, are you still enjoying Hot D more, or are you kind of like now they're both kind of meh to you? Is one rising, one falling? Are they?
I would say probably Lord of the Rings is rising more, just because it is more fun, bigger stakes, larger scope, and this feels, and it is smaller than regular Game of Thrones, but it almost feels too small. Like it needs to spread its wings and do other stuff, but it just feels like we're just in King's Landing at all times. And then when we saw Daemon and his wife in Essos, were they in Essos? They were across the narrow sea.
They're somewhere. Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, welcome to our lands, and this castle will be yours. And like, oh, if you wouldn't have said it, I would have just assumed you were still in Westeros. It just all very samey.
Yeah. They were in Essos because they said they were, I think, in Pentos.
Okay.
Which is...
Yeah, and the only thing you could really have is like his garb, but the castle looked, pretty Westerosi. I don't know. It just feels real small. But it is season 1.
Yeah,
it'll have time to branch out.
I've been thinking it's because you don't want to necessarily compare, but you can't help it but compare because they're the two big fantasy shows on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
But it's like if you want characters, you kind of have to go for Game of Thrones. Like, but Tolkien was never, in my opinion, never really that great at characters. He was great at like world building.
Yeah.
And I mean, Martin has great world building as well.
Like, this one family of the many houses, I know hundreds of years of their generations.
So I understand like why people might go like, oh, well, I'm not enjoying Rings of Power that much because the characters aren't that interesting. But I mean, if you're looking at the source material, and some people would argue like, oh, well, actually, it's super interesting. But that I won't get into it. It's just like if you want characters, Rings of Power is for you. But if you want big epic,
you got it backwards.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No. Yeah, you did.
House of Dragon is where the characters are really succeeding. And hopefully Rings of Power can enhance some of the characters because, if Galadriel's your lead, she's been kind of one note this whole season, while other characters I think have been more dynamic. And then, there's some bigger ensemble show on House of Dragon. But I think that, like you said, the stakes, and I'm more interested to see what happens on Rings of Power, even though like all that stuff is essentially sort of been written as well.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's all going. Where like I know where Rings of Power is, Jesus Christ, House of Dragon's kind of going to end up. So I don't know. It's interesting, and I'm glad they kind of exist at the same time because in a weird way they complement each other, even though they're vastly different.
Yeah.
And I like going back and forth. Whatever. I lost my train of thought.
All right. So, Steve, you could choose either a dragon or a Ring of Power. What are you taking in our world right now? Not in their worlds, in our world.
Now, if I pick a ring of power, will it corrupt me in the same way?
This is the only ring of power that exists. There's no Sauron in this world, so you're fine.
But I mean, like, all of the rings of power do different stuff. Like, the rings that men get are different from the rings that the elves get.
Yeah. But, like, as we've seen in, like, the show and movies, they don't do jack shit. So I would
They turn you invisible and you can talk to spiders.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like, oh, I'm the elves. We have 3 of them. And like, what do you do with them? They sure look nice, don't they? They don't, like, there's no real magic that you see in Lord of the Rings. You know, Gandalf does a little shiny thing against the Nazgul.
The Balrog. Oh, no,
when he's riding on the
yeah.
horse. But it's just like, oh, yes, we have 9 rings of power. Or what was it for the dwarves? 5?
7 for the dwarves, 9 for men.
And like, what do they do with them? It's like, okay, we chose you to be a special leader that has it. It just, they don't seem like they do anything except corrupt you. So why would you ever want that? So I'm going to take a dragon.
Yeah, I mean, having a dragon would be my choice as well. But for this, for the sake of argument, having a ring of power would be pretty cool. Like, the ones they gave to men essentially just made them like powerful and like, were able to sort of like rule their kingdoms, without question. And the dwarves, like, just essentially like their rings gave them like wealth and stuff. So they were able to like garner.
They need more wealth. Like they work.
Well, it's not like every dwarf kingdom was the Smaug thing, where it's just like there's just like rivers of gold. It's just,
but that's what they do is they dig and they process everything that they get, and that's where all the precious gems are underground. So you think they'd be capitalizing on that?
Well, they did, because they got rings of power that just, I guess, helped them mine stuff. And then, I mean, if you're gonna pick a ring, you're gonna pick an elf ring.
Yeah, since they don't seem to corrupt,
they're
and they're
the
really
ones
big and
the ones that
gaudy.
don't corrupt. And there's the ring of fire, ring of air, and ring of water. But it's not like a Captain Planet thing where it's like it seems to like summon. It's just like that's just what they're called.
It seems more like, oh well, I rule this house, so I get a ring. But I don't know if that's actually true, because it's not.
There was a I saw on Reddit. There was a infographic that broke down. Oh, you did see
I
that?
did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just like, oh, this is the one that Galadriel has. And it's like, yeah. And what did she fucking do with it? And like, oh, well, since this is the ring for water, I run the river elves. Well, since I have the ring of air, I do the ones that are up in the clouds, by the mountains or something. But it was just kind of like, oh, it's the ring of air. But and why and for what? It's like the rings of power seem to do nothing, except for the one ring.
Right.
But anyhow,
dragons. Let's ride them. Let's conquer shit.
So let's do the stuff that we both seen before we get to our own personal stuff.
Okay.
And some of these we gotta do kind of quick. Do you even want to talk about She-Hulk? I know you're seething with rage every episode.
If I could turn into a Hulk and destroy, I would. I'll just say really quick, I complained about the twerking episode in the podcast 2 podcasts ago, and my wife's just like, you don't have to keep watching the show if you don't like it. And it's like, and I'm the person, I have no problem jumping ship, but at this point, like, I kind of need to see how it ends just so I can have a conversation with you and go like, Ben, why are you enjoying this show? Yeah. This is hot garbage. And this wedding episode I think is the worst episode so far.
Oh my God, no way.
Yeah, I didn't care about, and I thought it was goofy. It's like, don't show up as She-Hulk to the wedding. That was super rude. Like, no logical person would do that. And I understand, like, they tried to write it off as just like, well, I just wanted to feel like noticed or whatever for the first time ever. It's like, shut the fuck up. No, that's dumb. Don't do that. Your friend invited you, not the She-Hulk, and why wouldn't you think that would just like suck all the? It's like going to your friend's wedding, going like and proposing or announcing you're pregnant. It's
showing up in an even bigger limo,
or like wearing a white dress, but it's got I don't know. But there's no top to it. You're just boobs around. I don't fucking know.
This is just my wedding outfit. It's a topless white dress.
Don't worry about it, Sarah. But then, the Titania fight just seemed so dumb. And in the fact that, they have this fight and she punches her across the face, and she's like, oh, that wasn't very nice. And then she like slips and falls, and the fall is what knocks out her veneers or whatever.
Yeah, she fell on her face. Yeah.
Yeah. But isn't she like super strong?
Yeah, but maybe she also has the mass behind the strength, so her falling is like getting punched. I don't know.
That might just be a nitpick, but it just seemed like a dumb. I don't know. I don't like this show. I don't think it's very good.
The previous one?
I don't know why people like going on Reddit. Like you can tell when people don't like a thing. Mm-hmm. But if you go to a specific fan base's Reddit, they're not going to say you can tell when it's bad when they don't say anything good.
Okay.
But they also don't say anything bad because they're not going to trash the show because they're like, we have to like Marvel shit. Mm-hmm. And if we say, oh, I didn't like this, people are going to go like, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So they don't say anything bad, but they're not saying like, wow, this episode was great. I really love this part. This part's so funny. And it's just like, oh, that's an interesting direction they went in. And that's what I'm seeing.
Okay.
I don't think people like the show as much as they think they do.
No, I think that I think there are people who genuinely like it.
I'm sure there are.
And people who absolutely hate it. There was one of my favorite podcasts I mentioned before called The Weekly Planet. They're one of their things is they just never say the name of the movie right. They always they call Jungle Cruise Rock in His Tiny Tugboat, And so then this guy, this graphic designer, and he goes by Weekly Planet Posters. He makes the movie poster with the wrong title, and he made one for She-Hulk, and it was "Sorry, Incels," and then the tagline instead of "Attorney at Law," it was like "Not everything is made for you," and it got tweeted around a lot, and I guess people thought Disney actually made it. Oh. And they were really getting on these people, which I wish that would have been funny. But I love that "Sorry, Incels." If I could get it on a shirt, I'm going to. It's really funny. But two things I liked in these last two episodes were the court cases. The one before, she had to humiliate herself with all these really shitty dates to prove that she actually uses the name She-Hulk. I thought that was really good. And then the court case, well, it didn't even go to court, but Mr. Miracle, I think his name was.
Mr. Immortal.
Mr. Immortal, and just killing himself every time he wanted to get out of a marriage, and he had 9 different wives and what he had to owe. All that stuff was really funny, and just how big of a scumbag he was.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before in here. It's if it was just about these superhero or not superhero people with special abilities court cases, I'm all in for that. It's I've talked to other people who just well, I don't want to see a court show, and other people are just I want to see a court. I'm in the camp that wants to see the court version of this that takes itself seriously, not this goofy children's show that also happens to sometimes be in a courtroom. And it's I
think every episode, except for maybe the first 2, there's been a court case or some sort of legal thing in every single episode.
But it never really seems like the focus of the episode.
Not always. It's about Jennifer Walters.
No, I understand that, but that's the same as I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue with this with you, Ben.
That's fine. We could move on. I'm enjoying the show. I think it's getting better every episode.
And I don't begrudge anyone for enjoying the show. You're allowed to enjoy a thing that I don't enjoy. I just don't see why.
and we don't have to talk about it until it's over. How about that? We got 4 episodes left. We'll take a break from reviewing.
Also, that whole her friend going with her buddy to go get the new Iron Man 3s. I like the idea of Iron Man sneakers, but them going to that weird shop. It's oh, I got some Avengers gear, and that's the guy that leads you to the guy who's the secret superhero costume maker.
I didn't care for any of that.
Oh, that was dumb as shit.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that the costume guy, can't remember if I brought this up last time. I'm surprised that the guy who's designing these outfits isn't was some B-list celebrity. You bring in something like Macaulay Culkin or something like that.
Okay.
I just thought it would just be someone who I've seen in something before and go oh, I didn't expect him to be on the show, or and it's just some random actor who I don't know if we'll ever see. Because I thought that's the kind of person you would introduce, and that person will be someone who comes back and forth in the universe. Oh, this is the guy who makes all of our shit.
Yeah.
And he's just a Q kind of character. It's Ant-Man got in a big fight last time. Oh, I got you a new suit, sir. And then he kind of just pops in and out.
The Edna mode of...
Yeah, and and I like that. It just kind of seemed like that character was also just like the classic like Devil Wears Prada kind of like, I'm sassy, don't ruin fashion, whatever. It's like, oh, well, that's your opportunity to have an interesting, different take on a fashion designer.
No,
but it was like the same old thing.
You go with the super gay. That's that's the caricature of that sort of.
So I just thought that was
all right. Let's do like 2 minutes on Primal.
I called it. I said he was going to die in this finale, and he did. I thought it was set up for him to go to the end. And I mean, I guess they could do that in season 3. But I did read an interview with the creator and said, like, you know, he's gone. I'm not saying he's completely out of the show, but if we go forward with a season 3, it's going to be about his kid and, you know, all this stuff. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm into that. I think it was a perfectly good send-off to Spear. I think a lot of people were disappointed that there wasn't some big epic battle.
But how can you get even bigger? Which you do. You fight a demon.
Yeah.
But how does a man fight a demon? He can't. He can't do it. So it's either he's going to just get grabbed and burned to death quickly, or he's going to push him down the mountain and do his best. And that's all you really can ask for. And yeah, what can you do? Throw water on him? That doesn't work. Oh, Fang's gonna chew him? Well, that's not gonna work. So
yeah, well, that's one of the things I liked about it from the jump. Like, they established water doesn't work on this guy episodes ago when you first see him like start walking across the ocean. I was like, okay, like there wasn't gonna be that thing where he shows up. It's like, oh, well, the answer is if he's made of fire, throw water on him. It's like, nope, out the door within the first seconds of meeting him. Great stuff. The only problem I have with the finale is
what many people have.
Well, many people have is the sex scene. Yeah. Which, like, they have a problem with it because it seemed almost rapey.
Yeah, it's a form of assault. But when I think it's different times. Cavemen didn't have like consent. Like the
dude
stereotype.
Speak.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I guess he could just give like a wink or something like that. But
the stereotype we have of cavemen is like, you know, you bonk the woman on the head, grab her by the hair, and drag her back to your cave.
And now you have a wife.
And then that's it. And that has just been like largely accepted. Yes, that's assault, but that's just like caveman stereotypes. And this was a sweeter version of that in a way. And I have no problem with her seeing that all he wanted was a happy family and trying to let his lineage live on. But you're right. There is the bad part is he's burned to shit.
Yeah, like I'm okay with them having sex. I'm not okay with him, like, it's like I can believe he got an erection. But I imagine just him getting that erection was super painful. And then
like when you over grill a hot dog and you got that black char on it.
That's how I'm imagining
and then it would split as
Don't stop. But my point is, it's just like every thrust, I imagine him just going, like, if I would have been okay with the scene if he was just going, ow, 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 mirror, ow, oh, and that's it. It's like mission accomplished. But it's just because like you can't tell me that loincloth protected his underbits. Like, that dude was on the brink of death. It's like he only was alive long enough to bust a nut and then died, I assume.
But what
I don't
a way
think
to
he
go.
made it to tomorrow. So yeah, it was an interesting. I didn't see it coming. It was a surprising take. But if there's a season 3, if there isn't a season 3, I'm perfectly okay with it.
Then we'll have 2 perfect seasons.
2 perfect seasons. If there's a season 3, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the adventures of Spira, I think is what I was calling her.
Spira and Toothy.
yeah. There's two T-Rexes. They never get names, or maybe they do. Maybe they do have names from them, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
Chomper and Snaps or something like that. Well, I think Chomper was a Land Before Time T-Rex.
There'll be T and then Rex.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because they know they're called T-Rexes. Yeah. Fang knows their species.
Well, they never called Fang and Spear in the show. You know.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move to real quick. Rick and Morty. How you liking season 3? 3 episodes in. We got a 4th one tonight.
Season 3. Season 6.
Season 6. 3 episodes.
Remind me what the first 2 episodes were.
The first one just picked up where the season left off. That other Morty went into his dimension and his portal gun was busted and they were dying on the space station. and Space Beth came and saved them. And then they all like got sent back to their original dimensions. So Morty went to the Cronenberg universe, and we kind of discover that like our Rick, whose Beth and wife did die, he took the place of the Rick that killed him, because that was one of them. You know, like that Beth's father abandoned him, and so that was two things. Like one, he gets a family and gets to just kind of slide into that. And then two, if that Rick is ever going to come back to visit his real family, he's going to be there waiting. And then so the only people that stayed behind were Beth and Summer, Earth Beth and Summer, because that's just their world. And Jerry went back to whatever land he went to one where they didn't get a divorce, and he's just like getting shit on and absolutely miserable. Or that's where the Jerry's got mixed up from the playground area. Second episode though. Oh, Die Hard. It's Roy too, which was like a fun concept, but I don't know. I don't think I needed the Die Hard stuff, even though I think the funniest stuff was at the Die Hard. But the concept of your 1/9 of my grandson spread across the entire population. That's like a really neat idea, and joining together and countries having wars over, like, it's all Mortys just fighting Mortys because of different belief systems. That's all really good, but that episode didn't really like knock it home for me. But the third episode,
yes.
My God, I was so taken aback. And it's just like, they're so good with like rapid fire, really smart, witty dialogue, and they can like tug at your heartstrings or just like gut you with one line. And this one was really good at showing this emotion of like the same person falling in love with yourself and really finding the perfect person for you. And then all the stuff with like Jerry like turning into a bug for one thing, and then like giving them permission to sleep with each other and just like terrorizing the family.
But then by giving them permission, it just turned into this like weird hot three-way. It's like, yeah, well, I want you to. Well, maybe I don't want you to. Well, then fine, don't do it. It's like, oh, okay. It's like,
I kind of like this.
Everyone's so confident now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but just all the conversations with Earth Beth and Space Beth were just like I don't want to say profound, but really thought-provoking of just like, what do you say to yourself and how do you deal with something when you know exactly how your other self is going to react to it.
And like to have both of them live such different lives but still be essentially like the same person. Like you're not going to lose who you are because of you know, certain things that you do. You still got to like live with yourself at the end of the day. And I did like the reference where Rick is like, are you guys San Juniperoing each other or something like that? I was like, oh, Black Mirror, nice.
I really thought the episode was going to go like Space Beth gives her a little transmitter thing and now she can speak French. And I thought Earth Beth was going to start getting real jealous of everything Space Beth have. And Space Beth would be feeling lonely not having her kids around, and that they would like maybe even do a swap or something. I wasn't expecting them to just start hooking up.
Right.
But they do. And it's pretty hot.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. It's growing up, you always ask your friends like these dumb questions, like, if you could do this, would you? Or, you know, how much money would it cost for you to do this wild thing? It's like, so if you met yourself, it's like, is it gay if you have sex? If there's a clone, is it gay if you have sex with yourself?
Or is it
like,
just masturbation?
Or if you could suck your own penis, would you suck your own penis? And like, all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, if there's a manifestation of yourself, it's like, yeah, is it masturbation, or are you having sex with a different person?
Yeah.
They just happen to look like it's like,
is
but
it
they
incest?
are you?
Because
like,
it'd
what
be
is
like
it?
if it was a clone of you, it'd be almost like if you had an identical twin, and if those two people had sex with each other, that'd be considered incest. But if it's just a clone, is it the same thing? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've thought of that. If a clone of me came in, like the idea would be like, oh yeah, let's, you know, no one has to know. We'll just go fool around. But I'd be like, you're really fat and gross. If you lose some weight, maybe you can get me. You know, the exact clone of you.
You're both just so petty and mean to each other. But it's just like, yeah, I know what I like. And I know they know what I like.
It's like, but do I want me to do that to me? And then I'm going to have to do it to me?
Yeah. I just imagine whatever happens, you're both just going to be sitting there with like a sheet over yourself, just going like, we can never talk. Or like you both instantly regret it. And it's like now you both are like, I have to kill the other one so the other one doesn't talk. Like you could go so many different directions with like, what happens if I sleep with my clone?
I think I'm comfortable enough in myself that I don't need to murder my clone because I'm so ashamed that I blew myself. Now, I would, knowing me and how lazy I am, we would just be like, okay, well, we'll be roommates with my current roommate. We'll just share a room and whatever, and we'll just trade off going to work every other day. So one of us can be lazy. Both of us aren't going to get a job to double our income. No. We're going to trade off so we can have more downtime.
I mean, honestly, that's probably the best way to go about it.
But yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the season. As every season, I'm excited
there's not a bad season of Rick and Morty.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we have both seen is Atlanta season 4, final season. First 3 episodes are out. Great season so far. Like,
damn, it's good.
That first episode blew my mind. They're so good with doing like dark and thought-provoking and then silly. Like a woman on a rascal scooter chasing him down across the city, no matter how far he goes and how fast he goes. And then having this weird limbo universe of the train station where you're meeting all your exes.
It's not the train station. It's it's a mall.
Oh, it is a mall. Okay.
Yeah.
And then all these stories just coming together at the very end and wrapping it up and with a perfect little bow. Mm-hmm. I really think it's probably the strongest season opener out of any season.
Yeah, I could see that.
Second episode, I felt like I really loved the Paperboy stuff and the young white avatar stuff. I mean, I bet you were cringing really hard with those kids because they were like the most embarrassing human beings.
I think there was a point where like I covered my ears or something, or like I covered my, I can't remember, but I do believe there's power. I can't listen to this.
Yeah. But the stuff with Ern and D'Angelo was terrible. Like maybe some of the worst stuff I've seen in the
that was
show.
episode
That was 2.
3.
No, that was 2.
It was 2?
Yeah. Because episode 3 is the therapy.
Oh, you're right. I'm okay. Yeah.
And so I felt like we've already kind of established here's a weird place where you have to do a weird thing in order to get something you didn't know. And that was kind of like the mall with Van. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like too similar to have them back to back. I didn't care about any of that. And then the outcome was what?
Yeah, the D'Angelo thing kind of seemed like maybe this is one of those instances on the show where it's like, as a white person, I'm not necessarily supposed to understand it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Because like I've heard of D'Angelo, but I didn't understand like is he like really that important to Black culture, I guess?
I'd say the thing I know about him the most is his music video where he's naked.
Yeah.
And it's slowly going around him showing like how fucking cut this dude is. And, they parodied it in American Dad with That's My Mama, with Steve. That, I think, is the thing I know him the most for.
Yeah.
But his bigger effect on the world and music, I don't know.
Yeah, because like I never hear anyone be like, have you heard the new D'Angelo song? Yeah. Or it's like, oh, D'Angelo's here? It's like, is that guy like made an album the past decade? Or is he like
and
touring?
When that dude turned around, I was just like, is that D'Angelo? Yeah. Because if it is him, like maybe it's just been a long time and he looks different. And then Ern had to say like, you're not D'Angelo. And it's like, oh, yeah, I knew that. I knew that wasn't him. Yeah. But I didn't know what all that really was.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm always happy to go along for the ride when it goes to this weird place because it just makes me go like, well, what was that about? Like, or like, even if I don't understand it, maybe I'll get it by the end. And even if I don't, it's like, okay, well, let me hit up the internet and see what people are talking about. But yeah, the Paperboy stuff was fun, and I like that they actually went to the Grammys and like he
won. But he overdosed the same night, and he won for a song called "Born to Die," and it's just like it's so
Yodel Kid,
and everything that happens is like this is so dumb and far fetched, but I absolutely can see everything happening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like Young White Avatar. That's a good concept.
Episode 3. Ern's a fucking psycho, man. Yeah. Like, I don't know. 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 I don't I had a feeling when he was in therapy talking about like the woman who
The TSA agent.
The TSA agent who, racially profiled him or whatever. Like, I was like, I bet that's the lady we're seeing, and I wasn't sure how that story was going to connect.
I didn't until it was.
I mean, that like when he has
late.
that open conversation, it's like in the back half or third of the episode or whatever. So I was just like, oh, maybe that's who that is, because what else would this story be? But that, like, the very ending, I didn't see like, oh. I
he
wasn't
set this up for her to fail. Like
he ruined her. He paid thousands and thousands of dollars to ruin this lady's
hired
life.
actors, and we should have known, because what's his face was the secretary to the book guy. What's his name? Tracy. He was in other episodes. You remember, like, Ern wanted to spend the night at Paperboy's house, but that other dude was already there. And when they went to Europe and stuff, he was left.
Well, yeah, when he showed up, I was just like, oh, well, that's a fun way to bring him. Like, I didn't think that Ern would have hired that guy. I just thought, like, oh, look at him. He got a job.
That's what I thought. But it's like one of those little clues that, we probably should have seen. Like, no, we know that we don't know anybody else in this story. Why would we know this one person? Mm-hmm. We should. So it was a good clue that wasn't really a clue, or not a helpful clue.
Right.
But so pretty much for people who don't know, Ern's in therapy. And did we know that he was, like, abused as a child? And I assumed it was sexually abused. Do they specify?
I think he said in the one episode his uncle touches plop plop.
Wrong show.
As a Community reference for you guys. If you haven't watched Community with Donald Glover in it, go watch it. It's the greatest comedy show.
How have I not seen that in a GIF form of him crying and having the
my emotions.
Someone get on that.
Yeah.
But and then how he had this huge, why he had to leave school, which we never got an answer to until now, and them wanting him to speak, but just because he's making money and he's doing well, and then. Then, like, as he's just unloading all of his baggage, and he's having heart problems and stuff like that. But then we're cutting to this random white lady who is kind of mousy and gets an email saying, we found your book online and we want to publish it. And she meets with the dude, and he tells her she needs to spend all this money for, like, a makeover and an artist.
And she quits her job.
Quits her job, and her friend's like, you're fucking crazy. And her friend doesn't even believe in her. She's gonna read for a bunch of inner city kids, and they all like,
this book sucks.
Like, that horse is stupid, like you.
Yeah, that part. Oh, that was another part where I covered my ears or whatever. I was just like, I need it to be over because it's making me very, very sad.
And like the publicist leaves, and they're filming her.
The librarian's like kind of bitchy towards her.
Yeah. And then, she can't bring in her dog, and she runs out crying. And then we, like, cut into a bar, and on every TV is her reading the book and crying.
Which I just thought was, like, one of those weird Atlanta things where it's just, like, they're not going to
This is a public access thing.
Yeah, there's going to be no context to it. It's just something playing in the background. But there is context to it because Ern recorded it, and this is a party to celebrate her downfall as a human being.
She rubbed him she profiled him and made his life hell because she was a TSA person, and so he was saying that, like, he loves spite, and he lets it feed on him, and that in real life he was. I saw an interview. Did you see this?
No.
Yeah, he was talking about him, like, he loves spite and he loves getting revenge, and someone said, like, oh yeah, he can make a big song. But because he's a popular actor and people already know him, so that his song's going to blow up no matter what. And so he made a song in a completely, like, different genre, and it became a hit. And then he's like, I'm not going to even make a video for this just to prove you wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's nice to see him put, like, he really knows himself and putting it into his character. Yeah,
But what I also liked about that final scene is that when Darius and Paperboy come in, they're just kind of like, okay, man, like, how much did you spend on this? This
don't worry about it.
Yeah, this just seems like they didn't necessarily go like, they weren't like, oh, nice, man, show that white lady what's up. They were just kind of just like, all right, man,
this is what you want to do with your money.
Yeah, okay.
And Darius put it.
They didn't disown it or whatever, but they were just like.
But you could tell, like,
they were just like,
this isn't the best use of your time and money. Yeah. And Darius put it. This is either the pettiest thing in the world or terrorism. And then he even goes like, why can't it be both? And then it ends with like him coming to the realization like, oh yeah, I got to go back to therapy.
I gotta go back to therapy, yeah. Because I get it. Like, I imagine the getting revenge on someone is nice, but then how do you feel after? It's like, oh, you fought fire with napalm, and it's like, are you going to really feel better after it's over? And the answer is no.
Probably not. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of that season, and we'll probably come back to it at the end, unless there's another really great episode and we have to mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I think every season so far we've gotten just pretty much a Van episode, and so I like Van a lot, and we haven't gotten any of her really. I mean, a little bit in episode 2.
Yeah. Very little.
Or episode 1. Whatever the
episode 1.
Yeah. So hopefully we see more of her, because I enjoy her stuff. But yeah, I love the show. I'm gonna miss it, and I'm interested to see where it ends, because the show is constantly surprising me in ways that's like, you can't predict this show.
Yeah, and this isn't a show that needs like some definitive ending or what happens to in the future. It'll just be wherever they are in their life. That's where we'll leave off at.
Yeah, if the finale ends with like Ern walking through a door, and then it's like
saying hi to his daughter.
I was gonna say he walks through the door and he's like back to the pilot of episode 1.
Or
something like that.
Thing like
and
that.
It's just like, oh, some weird time loop.
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But
that seems like Atlanta. Yeah. So did you see that they revealed the Joker's true name?
It's funny. I did watch that video.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. Jack Oswald White.
Yeah.
Okay. Why use Oswald? You already have a character. It's just like how we have Harvey Dent, and then we have Harvey Bullock. Like, okay, do we need 2 first name Harveys in it? Whatever. But now we have
but most of the time you call him Dent or Two-Face, and most of the time you just call him Bullock.
No, I get
that
it.
kind of works.
And it's just like, okay, you call him Joker and you call him Penguin, but like Penguin's name is Oswald, and why would the Joker's middle name be Oswald? And then his name, if you take out the middle name, is just Jack White of like the White Stripes. Like, if they don't want to use Jack Napier, okay, I get it. That was from the movies, but I really like that name.
Yeah.
If you're not going to use the Napier, why still use the Jack? If you're going to go completely different on all of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't. It's just not. As soon as I clicked on the video, like I didn't watch it till like days after it came out, and I was just like, because I know at the end I'm gonna be disappointed, whatever it is. Not that I'm some Joker purist or whatever. It's like I'm okay with them like doing a different version of the Joker where this one has a name.
Yeah.
But the name they chose is boring.
Yeah.
Choose something either completely out there or exciting. Maybe he's got a connection to not necessarily Wayne, but maybe his last name is fucking Kent or something. He's like Superman's half cousin or some shit. I don't know.
Maybe.
But just like, well, Jack is a reference to Jack Napier, White because he's the white-skinned clown menace, and then Oswald for some fucking reason. It was so uninspired. It's like if you want to make a name canon, like there's Joe Kerr. Yeah. It's a little on the nose, but like
Joseph Kerr. Yeah.
Joseph Kerr, you could go that way.
No, that's
John Doe is what they've done, and this is like there's names that are just obviously like they're the aliases that Joker has made, but at least they're like fun play on words. Where it's just like Jack Oswald White is just not. It's like, or if you want White to be the last name, great,
that's fine.
But pick something else besides Jack and Oswald.
Yeah. Yep.
Make him. I don't know, Gary White. It's like, oh, lame.
Yeah.
What a lame name for the most. And you'd be
but that works.
It's
just like comic book store guy on The Simpsons. Like he has a really generic sounding name. I can't remember it right now, but it's funny because you think he's gonna have some crazy weird, Tolkien sounding name, but like no, this is just a normal name.
Yep. Who cares? Whatever.
Yeah. Who cares? Whatever. I second that. You have a few more things than me, so I'm going to let you pick first. What do you want to do?
I'll do a game I played.
Okay.
Played in quotation marks. So one of the free games for...
See, when you say played in quotation marks, that makes me think you just watched a YouTube video or you watched a Twitch stream of someone playing it. You actually played it.
I put 2 hours into it.
That's playing.
I played the free game for PlayStation Plus this month, Need for Speed Heat. And I was just like, you know what? I never play racing games unless it's like Mario Kart. Like maybe there'll be some fun in here that I feel like I've been missing. And, you know, the driving was fun. And I didn't expect there to be a storyline, but there is. And I was like, oh, a racing game with a storyline? Okay, cool. Maybe I can get, like, 99% of the games I play, I, like, need a storyline. The problem is, I didn't care about the storyline because I think street racers are bad people.
Yeah.
So essentially, they try and get you invested by going, oh, well, there's these crooked cops who come after you. And so the game is just like, you need to kind of bring these guys down. Like, you're the new kid in town. You meet this girl. She's like, oh, you want to make a name for yourself in the streets? Well, you got to go to this racetrack and, you know, win some races, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but you got to watch out for these guys. That officer, blah, 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 he's a real piece of shit. And it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. The cops are the bad guys in this, and you're like the new... But it's just like, you're still a bad person because you're doing illegal street racing. And it's like, there's never people on the street. Like, you're driving in the middle of the day in, like, what is essentially Miami.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can't really do any damage. But, like, just the idea of, like, I'm supposed to root for street racers.
Yeah, because they're cool with their cool cars.
Yeah, it's like, you root for the Fast and Furious crew because every movie, they're saving the world. It's like, yeah, you're kind of like, oh, well, they're family. But if they were a family who, like, okay, they like each other, but they're, like, breaking the law every movie, it's like, I don't want to root for that group. But you root for them because they're saving the world every year somehow.
Yeah.
But this is just like, no, you're kind of a dickhead who likes to go up 200 miles an hour down city streets. And, like, thankfully, no one lives in the city anymore. I guess. But it's absurd. So I just wanted to say, nice try, Need for Speed Heat, but your story can go fuck itself.
Well, how's the gameplay, though? Is it a fun racer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean, like, so obviously you're going to start out with a generic car, and, you know, you win races, and that gets you money so you can upgrade the car to buy new cars. And it's just like, okay, so I'm going to play this game for a bunch of hours to get, like, the really good stuff at the end game. And I just didn't care. And I'm sure that there's, like, an online play and stuff, but I didn't care about any of that. If I was into cars, maybe it'd be, like, more interested in it, but I'm not a car guy. Yeah. It's just like, I just want to play a fun racing game. But when you give me a storyline where it's just like, oh, well, like, I'm a bad guy who's taking down worse bad guys. Like,
Yeah. The guy at my work was just like, oh, yeah, the new Gran Turismo is coming out. You going to pick that up? I'm like, no, not at all. Like, Gran Turismo is always a beautiful looking game.
Yeah.
And I give them props for getting all the specs down for every car, and they handle properly and everything. But I do not care about cars at all. And you're telling me there's no, like, jumps on these races? Oh, these are just, like, real racetracks that you would actually see on TV for racing. That's some of the most boring racing out there, is racing on TV. Where's the loop-de-loops? Where's the green turtle shells? Like, if it's not like a sci-fi super speeder F-Zero thing, or if it's not Mario Kart, I do not care for the hyper-realistic. And then I also don't like the hyper-realistic looking cars in city, but you are doing the jumps, but it's like a mix between the two. And I don't like that. You need to take it to the extreme extremes. I don't want normal looking cars at all. I want Mario Kart or, sci-fi speeders.
I know that there's things you can buy. I think I would enjoy racing games more if I felt like I was at the arcade where I'm sitting down and I have the actual wheel to kind of like maybe immerse myself more. Because just playing a racing game with your controller isn't the most fun thing.
No. That's why you need the turtle shells, and the lightning bolts.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just that in terms of if you're just looking for standard car racing, it was fun, but at the same time, like I can sit down and play like God of War. I can play for 8 hours because I'm so invested in the story and the combat. Like, I'm interested for those 8 hours. I can only play a racing game for like an hour before, like, okay, I've done 8 races and they've all essentially been the same.
Yeah.
So, like, because it's not like I had the entire city to explore and go like, oh, well, there's a race in the Chinatown district and there's a race in like the desert area outside the city. It was just like, no, I'm stuck in this one area until like I unlock enough whatever to go like other places.
Like, I'd rather do the racing missions in a Grand Theft Auto than I would in a dedicated racing game like this, because the world's open and you can like learn the routes better and where you could take your shortcuts and you don't have to always follow the track. I like that it's something within
something within something else. Whereas Need for Speed is just like, I don't know. I shouldn't say because I haven't played any of it, but just from what I've seen in the past.
It's not like I've played other Need for Speed games as well. It's not a indictment of the series itself. It's just from my limited experience in the 2 hours I played this game. I was like, I don't care about the story. Yeah. There's only so much satisfaction I can get out of racing, and it's like I can't just like jump into the best car. I got to start out with this hoopty or whatever the kids are calling these days and work my way up.
These days they're definitely calling them hoopties.
These lemons.
Well, I called it a jalopy, so that ages me.
Yeah, so it's just,
Did you get the other game, the fighting?
I did, but I didn't play it.
Yeah, I played it for like 2 seconds, but every fighting game's a little different. Like, oh, is this more Mortal Kombat ish, or is it more Street Fighter? So I played for 2 seconds. And it's like, oh, look, I'm an anime girl jumping around on a pirate ship.
Yeah, and plus, I feel like old school fighting games like that, I need someone to sit next to me and play with me because I don't want to just fight the computer.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to talk about Andor real quick.
Great.
Andor, new Star Wars show on Disney Plus. It's going to be 12 episodes. And when they announced this, I couldn't give two shits because Rogue One is one of my least favorite Star Wars movies. I think it looks nice, but it is a terrible story with terrible characters. And it's just well made and nice looking. So, and Cassian Andor is one of the most boring characters in that movie. So I couldn't understand why they were going to do this show. And I really thought it was going to be just about him. It was going to be a book of Boba Fett or something where it's like we follow one character. Or actually, I felt it was going to be more like a solo. Where, where's the origins of Andor? Like, who gives a shit? But that's not it at all. It's really the origins of the Rebel Alliance and how this is 5 years before the Battle of Yavin, which is when they blew up the first Death Star. So the rebellion is very much nothing. It's very little, only few people who are kind of sniffing out how they can bolster their numbers. And it's great. It is really awesome because I feel like they said, okay, and I hate doing this comparison like always, but like we need our own Game of Thrones. We need our own like really good story set in this cool universe. And most Star Wars stuff seems to be, hey, look, that's an R2 unit. Isn't that cool? Oh, look, that's a lightsaber. You know what that is, don't you? Oh, X-Wings, you know that. It's all references. This has like none of that. Sure, there's droids and they talk about the Empire, but nobody ever like says Darth Vader. They don't say the Emperor. They don't talk about the Jedi. These are just people trying to live their lives under this new rule, or this rule that's been around for a few years, but we get to kind of see how people really fell into the Empire. That there's this security team that they're doing. This one planet is like a corporate planet, and everybody on it, it's all owned by one corporation. They're doing mining and shipbuilding and all types of stuff. And then there's their own police force on this planet, and their suits are very similar to an Imperial outfit, but there's more color to it. And you see how people kind of really feel, well, the Empire's right, rules are rules and we need to follow them. Otherwise there's going to be chaos. And you can see how people are able to just fall into that ideology. And, Andor's just a scrapper. He's a con man. He's always swindling people out of money, but he comes from a planet where there was like a mining facility, but it all got abandoned because either a bunch of people died from gas exposure or a collapse on, we don't know, but the whole project was just abandoned, and all that was left were like the children. All the adults are gone, and so there's just this tribe of Lord of the Flies type children looking after themselves, and he was one of them with his sister, but he gets separated when they go to do some investigation, and so now that he's older, he's trying to find where his sister went. It's just there's more to it than just Jedi, Sith, Rebel, Empire. It's these small little seeds that will grow into a much bigger story. It's really easy to kind of jump in and go like, hey kid, welcome to the Rebel Alliance, let's go, and everything's already established. There is no Rebel Alliance, and so having Sarsgaard stoke the early flames of the rebellion is really interesting. My main complaint so far is just it feels like these were supposed to be movies and they don't know where to like cut for the episode. So it's just like talking, and we're done. Okay, whatever. We'll pick it up on the next one. The next one kind of picks up where it should, but it feels a little abrupt. So watching the first 3 was okay, but I can see watching them episode to episode is going to feel like kind of blue balls.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it. It's going to be better than, if it maintains this quality, it's going to be better than Mandalorian.
So I think I'll give it a shot at the end of this season if I hear it sticks the landing, because I feel like that's kind of what Mando was when it first came out. It was like is in the Star Wars universe. There was not really much with the Jedi, and I mean, yeah, like Grogu is a mini Yoda or whatever.
You see stormtroopers, and you have a in that first episode, he freezes someone in carbonite. Yeah, it's references to things we already seen and not a lot of new. And then that's why it was so shocking at the end of that first episode was like, oh my God, it's a baby Yoda. I haven't seen that before. Cool, that's new. But then once that wears off, it is just Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I mean, sure, they reference stuff, but it's not like he was necessarily constantly fighting the storm. I mean, I don't remember season 1 all that well. Now,
and it's after the Empire fell. It's after Jedi, so it's just like remnants. But like,
right? Yeah, it just seemed like that was a show where this was our space western. It was him going on. Like every episode was different. It was.
But it was Tatooine. It was a Darksaber. It was an Imperial general. It's all shit we've seen before. Where this just feels like it's a familiar world without being beat over the head that it is Star Wars.
Fair enough, and that's something I would look forward to. My concern is, you say this is the part you like about it, where I think that's the part that's going to quickly dwindle away, and then maybe not this season, but season 2, it's just going to be all, hey, look at all this
We'll
shit.
get there, for sure.
And like that's where it's like, well, I don't want to invest in a show that's going to do the thing I don't want it to do because it's going to have to.
But if we build to it, I think it will be earned, and I'll be okay with by the mid-season of season 2, we finally see Darth Vader or we see Darth Sidious. Then we're building up to it. But if we started off like Darth Vader just going like, we must get these rebel scum and scourge them from the planet, like that's boring.
Sounds like him.
I know. That's a good James Earl Jones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm James Earl Jones. I just gave up all my rights to Darth Vader. Yeah. Did you see that he did that? He signed it over? Yeah. I mean, he is like 108, so like cash out now, dude. Anywho, but yeah, Andor.
Well, I'm glad you're liking it.
Yeah. But I don't understand why Disney is doing this. She-Hulk's still on the air. Why is She-Hulk and Andor playing at the same time? It's the same thing with Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan. Why?
Because not everyone watches Marvel, and the ones that don't watch Star Wars. So you're just like, we got to satisfy every fan base at all times, always.
I could understand if you said, oh, here is She-Hulk and, I don't know, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids remake. Okay, maybe the demographics for those are different. And you have your Star Wars and your Willow, and like you could have other things that cross over. But I'd say the Venn diagram of Marvel and Star Wars is almost a full circle.
Well, sure, but you're also talking about just because they don't come out the same day, correct?
Well, Miss Marvel and Obi-Wan did, but this one is like Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So yeah, it's just like, when you're tuning into your Disney Plus account, it's like, well, what new thing? It's only going to take you half an hour to watch a new episode of. Sure. Is this hour-long episodes or half hour for Andor?
They're like 30 to 40.
30 to 40.
But they also have like a 6-minute intro and 6-minute credits. Like,
okay, so it's just like
about a half hour.
It's just programming. It's just like, okay, Wednesdays is this, Thursdays is that. So like you might be satisfying the same audience, but now that audience is bored on Thursday if nothing's there. Oh, well, we can put Andor there.
I get it.
It doesn't affect. Well, it's just like. Watching the NBC Thursday night lineup, it's just like, yeah, there's 4 shows, and maybe you don't watch all 4 shows, but they all bleed into each other, and it's just it's just content, baby.
I think the rules of streaming are a little different. Like you could put out one thing a week, and it's like this is our thing for the week, and then the rest of the week you can watch our back catalog. Not unlike like Netflix, they have like 3 things, 5 things, 10 things. But for something like Disney, when they have the biggest properties, they don't need to have overlap. When one's done next week, or even that's fine. Andor ends or She-Hulk ends on a Wednesday night. Thursday night is the premiere of a next season. But to have them overlap, I think that's weird. I feel like they could stretch it out. Hey, I'm grateful. That means they're not stretching it out and milking it. But I think from a business standpoint, it seems like a weird idea.
Yeah, because we all know Disney makes bad business decisions.
Yeah.
That's why they're nearly broke right now.
Well, I mean, every live action remake has been a very poor decision. And I'm glad I'm not alone on the Pinocchio
Poor decision
thing.
creatively, poor decision financially.
That's true.
maybe
Like
not.
Aladdin and Lion King both made $1 billion. So, of course, why do it? But you keep doing that, you're tarnishing your brand. Everybody knows all the live action ones are garbage. And now that they stupidly did like Aladdin and Lion King in the same year, they're knocking out some of their big names. They're going to have to go back to things like Great Mouse Detective or Bambi to try to get something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's tarnishing their name, but it's like they do have some leeway in terms of tarnishing. It's like because they make all your favorite Marvel shit, they make all your favorite Star Wars shit. They make your Pixar movies, and it was like, so if we make shitty live action remakes that make $1 billion, like we don't care if you guys don't like them.
Yeah.
You paid for them.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but you paying for those dumb pieces of shit funds all the other shit you do like.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get it. I don't want them to exist, and I also do kind of want Marvel and Star Wars to like take a breath a little bit. But here we are.
No,
I don't make those decisions.
Star Wars will take breaths because they haven't announced like a new Star Wars movie. I don't think there is. There was the Rogue Squadron one when they were talking about it was who did Wonder Woman? Catherine Jenner? No, that's not a person. The director of Wonder Woman, do you know?
Shit.
Yeah, anywho,
Yeah.
she was going to make a Rogue Squadron movie, and she was like, this is going to be the best, fighter pilot dog fighting movie you will ever see. And then Top Gun comes out, and it's like, oh, well, can we really do it better? Because everything that we're going to do is going to be CG, where those people did it with real planes. It's not going to be nearly as interesting. Let's scrap it. Let's put it on hold.
Yeah. You know what? Now that you say it, studios, movie producers, if you're listening, whenever Disney announces something, you just make something faster and better than they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's how you bring down the beast. Just tank all their projects because they can't do anything better than you.
But they have that idea already. And they're like, you know what? We're going to do it already. Oh, we have Avatar coming out in Christmas. Well, fuck it. We're going to fuck ourselves over. Here's Wakanda Forever. Here you go. Same thing. 1 month earlier. Now you try to do it. Try to fit one in between that. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have to say about Andor. I like it a lot. Watch it.
I'm sure we'll get updates every week.
Maybe. No, probably not, because if you're going to watch it at the end...
I may watch it.
If I say it's really good and worth your time, then yes, you should watch it. But I don't want to give you all these little nuggets throughout, and then by the time you see it,
I didn't watch Book of Boba Fett. I didn't watch Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Mando's the only Star Wars thing I care about, and like even that, I'm like, it's just good enough. It's not great in my opinion, but it's good enough for me to continue watching.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and just say season 3 of Mandalorian is going to be not that special. But that's just me.
That could be. All right.
So what's next for you?
Real quick, because I know you're not a anime guy, I watched Dragon Ball Superhero, I believe it's called. It's the new Dragon Ball movie out in theaters right now. It's bad. I saw this with a buddy. I have respect for Dragon Ball franchise for pure entertainment value. Like, I was a huge fan as a kid, and like I followed the lore as it's going on for the most part. But I recognize it is not a good show. It's just, if you like big action sequences, it's one of the best out there. But our mutual friend invited me to go, and I was like, sure. I enjoyed the Broly movie that came out last year, whatever it was. I think I talked about it on the podcast.
Probably.
And that surprised me. I actually had I had a problem with the story. It's not a very good movie, but I had fun watching it. This, I did not. The story was absolute trash. Everything in it was nonsensical.
Is it canon to the other stuff?
Maybe.
Because, is he a superhero now? Like, in the terms of, like, a Batman would be a superhero?
So, No, not
Okay.
in the context of this movie, but Gohan is one of the characters in this movie, and he did become a superhero after a certain arc. Like he grew, he defeated Cell. Cut to years later in the next arc, he is now like a teenager, and he decides to become a superhero called the Great Saiyan Man, and it's a really dumb thing, but. Anyway, he gives it up when he has to like fight the next big menace and all that
Because
stuff.
like they're on Earth, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they all fucking superheroes in the
Essentially.
like they can all fly and blow up mountains and take huge chunks out of the Earth. Like they could all just be Superman, you know? I mean, one of the biggest fights that people pose is Gohan or Goku versus Superman, and who would actually win. And it's like most of these characters can do those sorts of things.
Yep.
So having the idea of like them being superheroes is kind of stupid. So I thought this was almost like a what if. Like, let's take these characters and reimagine it in a world where maybe only some of them can do it, or we'll change power levels, power sets, and let's do a superhero take with Dragon Ball characters.
That could be fun, but no.
Oh, cool.
This is called Dragon Ball Superhero because, all right, so there's a lot to unpack here. I won't get into it, but basically there was an evil villain guy who was a super genius who made these androids that Gohan had to fight back in the day, but they defeated him. And now his grandson, who's an even more greater genius, comes along and he's like, I'm really into superheroes. So he builds his own androids who have like superhero personality. They're like, I'm here to save the day and I'm going to stop these bad guys. But they're programmed to believe that the heroes of this movie, Piccolo and Gohan, are villains. They're like, you need to go kill them. They're bad guys. And they're like, okay, great. And so they fight them. And then, long story short, they realize that, Gohan and Piccolo aren't the villains. We've been lied to by our creators, who also works for like a mob boss who's like a real short guy. And it's dumb. But there's another thing that the evil scientist kid makes called Cell Max. And Cell was Gohan's greatest villain who he defeated in the Cell games arc, and so it's just like
purple and white, right?
No, that's Frieza. Cell is this like green kind of bug.
I tried.
Yeah,
I
good try. But it's just like taking a villain, and it's like, well, we're bringing that villain back, even though that villain's dead, but now he's like kaiju size, and he like doesn't speak. It's not is whatever. But it does that classic Dragon Ball Z thing where it's like, we can't defeat him. I guess I'll just somehow be more powerful because the plot needs me to. And so they just like reach a new level.
Yeah, it's like Hulk Hogan when he gets beat up and he keeps getting hit in the head over and over again and he starts hulking out, you know? You got to take a few more hits and then, you've unlocked the superpower. I get it.
Yeah, and to answer your question of is it canon? So this movie takes place after events that happen in the manga that haven't been animated yet. Mm-hmm. So this is like, in the terms of the show, Gohan doesn't have a kid yet, or if he does, it's like a brand new baby.
This isn't like canon to Dragon Ball Z at all, right?
So we're in Dragon Ball Super.
Okay.
Dragon Ball Super is where we're at now, and there's still like 2 arcs that haven't been animated yet.
So why even make this movie now?
Because they need to make movies to make money.
Because superheroes are popular and it's got superhero in its title.
Whatever. But they also did... This is the first time I think they've done different style of animation. It's like kind of mix of computer and 2D and stuff. And it just looks like wonky. And it looks so weird and out of place. And so
Does it look like a fighting game cutscene?
Yeah, it does. It's awful looking. And there's jokes in it that are like so bad. And they like turn and like wink at the camera, which they like... I guess I looked into it. There's like references to like the earlier comic book stuff where I guess they did that kind of stuff, or like in early Dragon Ball episodes, but they haven't in like 20 years. And so it's just like, so you're talking to the camera and you do this different style of animation that looks ugly as shit, and the fight sequences aren't that interesting, and like your story's dog shit because it's just like you're just bringing back old villains or grandsons of old villains and just making them more powerful, and then it's just like, well, our heroes can't defeat them until I guess they got even more angry than they were before, and now they can because they've just ascended to a new level, which we never saw before. Whoa! And it's just like nothing ever met. It's just the same garbage regurgitated year after year, and it's like, it's so great. I love Dragon Ball. That's fantastic. It's like Dragon Ball franchise is the worst written franchise anime probably of all time. It's just enjoyable to watch because it can be fun fight action sequences and gets you hyped up. It's like, oh man, I wish I could be Super Saiyan. But it's nonsense. If you sit there and tell me this is a good show and it's well thought out and all these characters are so like interesting, you're wrong and you're dumb because they're not. It's bad. It's so bad. If you're just like, yeah, I just like it because punchy guys punch other guys, I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But there's better punchy guy animes out there, right?
I guess you could argue that, sure. Yeah.
I mean, or I should say, there's also punchy guy animes with good stories.
Correct. It's just this does punching better than anyone, I guess.
Do they still yell for 3 minutes before they attack?
There is like charging up, I guess, but it's not egregious because they got to fit the whole movie into an hour and a half.
That's true. Yeah, when you have 52 episodes,
hundreds of episodes, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's just. I'm a story character guy, and there is no story, and all these characters have been around for 20 years, haven't really changed. Or it's like, oh, Vegeta's got one of the best character arcs in anime. It's like, yeah, he went from a bad guy to a not bad guy, and he's just been that. It's like, and he's kind of a dick all the time.
So like Red Hood or something.
Yeah, you know? It's just
like anyone else.
Vegeta's fun because he's like badass, but it's just like, oh, Piccolo. Bad guy, Goku fought him, now he's a good guy. Tien, bad guy, Goku fought him, now he's a good guy. Frieza fought him, he's still a bad guy, but he joined the team in Super. Every season of Dragon Ball is like, I have to fight a new villain, most likely in a tournament style, who will then later become my friend.
Okay.
For most of it. There's some villains who like Cell died, hasn't come back, and other characters who you don't know because I'm just naming people at you. But essentially,
I've heard these names.
Yeah, Goku just fights people until they become his friends.
Okay. Who was the very first villain of the very first show? Like, who was the main bad guy? Was it Piccolo?
So Piccolo was like the first like real villain in like the traditional like mega boss sense, I think. Like if you're talking back in like the Dragon Ball days, they would be like the Red Ribbon Army, which is just like a bunch of like humans and robots and stuff who are like, we're gonna take over the world or something, and Goku like defeats them as a kid when he's like 6 or something like that.
How pathetic that you're on the army and you're fighting a 6-year-old and you lose.
Yeah. But eventually, yeah. And so like there's Tien who's part of the team and he's just a human who was a dick who he beat and then they become friends. But like the first like villain who's like, I'm gonna like take over stuff was Piccolo. Okay. But that was because he had like evil, and then when Goku beat him, like his good side can't. It was a whole thing. I don't want to get into it. I'm not a Dragon Ball expert, but technically Piccolo was the first like bad guy.
Okay.
But
where does Vegeta fall in there?
So after he defeated Piccolo, that was sort of the end of the Dragon Ball arc, and then became Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
And so then that's when Goku was like your Superman character. He came from another planet and came to Earth, and his mission was to destroy it, but he like grew up and fell in love with the planet and became Earth's greatest protector. And so the Saiyans come, now they work for Frieza, and they're like, hey, we're going to destroy this planet, and yada yada yada. And so Vegeta was like the leader of the 3 last remaining Saiyans who came to Earth to like kill him and all that stuff. Cool. And then they teamed up because Vegeta's boss, Frieza, was like the biggest piece of shit in the universe who was like blowing up planets and conquering everything. He was like the Empire essentially. And so they had to take him down. And once Goku became a Super Saiyan, then Vegeta was just like, oh, he is kind of like the chosen one. I'll be his best friend. And then it's just this constant rivalry of like, oh, well, you're Super Saiyan, now I'm going to be Super Saiyan too. It's like they're basically just each other's
best friends and rivals
who help each other train and become more powerful. Because that's all they care about is like becoming more and more powerful to fight the more and more powerful people.
Gym bro culture.
Yep. And it's so anyway, we talked about this longer than I thought we were going to. Dragon Ball Super, hot doo-doo garbage. I'm sorry if you think it's good. It's not.
All right. Let me talk about Pearl. I'm going to save my other movie for last just because I actually want to go through the whole movie with you because I think you'll be entertained. So Pearl.
I've got 3 more things, by the way.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, we'll figure it out.
I can be quick about 2 of them.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah. So Pearl is the prequel to this year's X, and you did not see X, right?
I did not, but I think I remember you telling me you liked X, and
I like X a lot.
I've heard good things about Pearl. It's just and I know that there's a 3rd movie coming out
later
Maxine, this year. Yeah,
which is a true sequel to X. The character Maxine in that movie, she's the one that survives, It's now the 80s, and she's in Hollywood doing pornos, big time pornos.
Yeah, so since I've heard good things, I maybe wait for Maxine to come out and then just do like a trilogy bit.
Okay. Do you think you would do it in order of release or chronological order? Because I really think you could do it. Like, there's no surprises in Pearl that if you watch Pearl first, then X, you would go, okay, old lady is definitely crazy. So you may lose out one shocking scene. Mm-hmm. But once old lady is crazy, then, you know.
Yeah, I'd still probably watch it in release order, not chronologically, just because I feel like whether or not he intended on making a trilogy, like, that's the thing he wanted people to see first, so that's just how.
Yeah, well, I guess this movie came out of working with Mia Goth. This is written and directed by Ty West, who did House of the Devil. If you get a chance, excellent. Made in the late 2000s, but it looks like it was filmed in 1975. Amazing. They were just working on X, and they were fleshing out the character of the old lady Pearl, and they kind of went like, oh, there's more here. And so they fleshed out a whole backstory and shot this in tandem with X, and it was kind of almost in secret, and they did it for real cheap, and it's great. I love Pearl. It's super bloody, but there's not a ton of death. Mm-hmm. There's like some big moments where she does killing, but not as many as your typical slasher. Like X is very much a slasher movie where each person is being killed off one by one. These kills are kind of more plot driven instead of just, kill the cast of good looking people. So it's like 1918 and Pearl's living on the farm with her German parents. Mother is super strict. Dad has got some sort of disease where he's kind of chair ridden. He's there in his head, but he can't really communicate. They got to bathe him and feed him. And so mom's real strict, and Pearl just wants to get out of this small town and be a star, and she just wants to dance on the big screen. Whenever she goes into town, she watches a movie and just idolizes them and just wants to do that. Mom is like, get real. There's a farm to run. And Pearl's husband is in the war. He's shipped off, and she hasn't heard from him in a while. She's friends with her sister-in-law, and her sister-in-law says, like, hey, there's a talent competition, and there's a traveling dance troupe, and they're looking for girls in all these small towns. And so that's like her goal. I'm going to go do it. She befriends like a projectionist who shows her like naughty porno films. And then, Pearl kind of has some mental problems.
Real quick, are they actually naughty films, or just like, look, in this video, you get to see her ankles?
No, the actual film they show is one of the first documented real pornos to make. They show the real thing, and it's more like, oh, look, we met in a grove. Aren't you pretty? Let me take your top off. Ooh, woo, woo. Let me lift up your skirt and spank your butt. And then they do have sex, but it's like kind of far away. You can't really see all the action, but it's a legit porno. But like now, you could show that shit on TV, and nobody would no one would bat an eye.
Yeah.
So pretty much Pearl does her best to she goes to the talent show and she dances her heart out, and they're just like, yeah, nah, you're not pretty or blonde enough, and pass. And she has a breaking point, and she kills some people. She kills the projectionist who she thought she was going to run away with. She cheated on her husband with this guy, and without going into everything, because I do want you to see it, she kind of becomes unhinged and starts killing people. And there she cuts someone's head off, and it's more of a body disposal scene. And it is one of the most realistic, nasty looking fucking things I've ever seen. Like, it's slow-mo axe chop right on the neck, and you see the head bounce away, and you can see all the like tubes of your throat and arteries, and it is super realistic and just awful. But I gotta hand it to Mia Goth. She is phenomenal in this. She is crazy. She knows how to pull off like really naive but like pie in the sky, big city dreams ideal, and then her accent really works. And she has a 5-minute, you'll love it, it's like a single take monologue of her just unloading on her sister-in-law and just crying and snotting everywhere, and it's amazing acting. But one of my favorites is like one of the final shots as it's like the music is coming up and we're slowly panning into her before the credits come. And I'd say it's at least 4 minutes straight of her just smiling as big as possible and just like trying to maintain the look of happiness, but completely dying on the inside. And like you see little breaks and it comes back to the smile. Fantastic performance. I never really gave Mia Goth like, you know, 2 looks, but she's absolutely phenomenal in this. I gave it an A-, I believe.
She was in X, correct?
She plays the old woman in heavy makeup and the lead porn star.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why she's playing.
I didn't realize she played the old woman.
Yeah,
well. Okay.
I didn't even notice it. My roommate saw it and was like, "Oh yeah, did you see that? Isn't that cool?" I'm like, didn't even realize it.
You just thought it was an actual.
I just thought it was an old woman. Well, it did look like someone in prosthetics, but it didn't look like Mia Goth.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, someone to look out for. And then once again, another great horror film this year. Like we have X and this and Barbarian and Bodies, Scream at the beginning of the year. Lots of great horror movies. This has been an excellent year for horror. And that's Pearl.
Cool. Real quick, I watched Cobra Kai season 5. Probably worst season of the show so far, but still like enjoyable. I mean, it's your campy melodrama. It's like it could have existed on CW in some sense, but there's also like it is kind of violent, and they do say fuck and shit, and like they do curse. Like it is kind of an adult show, even though it feels like it's shot to be like a teen drama. And it's still fun, even though there's a lot of it that's just silly. Terry Silver, who was the villain in the third movie, is I think he's a pretty great villain on the show. I think he's really carrying the season. He's a lot of fun to watch. But the earlier seasons were fun because it was always like Johnny and Daniel Russo not really getting along. Where this, like, they've kind of become friends in order to like take him down.
Do they ever have to go back to back?
I don't think they go back to back this season. I mean, we have seen them fight together. Yes, there is an ass to ass scene. Yeah. But it's just my biggest problem with this season is Terry Silver's like master evil plan is to, because he just seemed like it seems like all of the valley, because they're constantly talking about the valley that they live in California, is just like, well, we got to stop Cobra Kai because they're turning all the kids in the valley into members of Cobra. It's like it seems like every kid in the valley wants to join a karate dojo for some reason. Like karate's made a full-blown comeback, and it just like they never go like, oh well, they're just a gang now. But it seems it's like the Foot Clan in the Ninja Turtles movie. We're just like, oh, we're recruiting all these teens to join the Foot Clan. Yeah. But it's not like they're committing crimes. It's just like, oh, if you join Cobra Kai, we'll kind of make you into an asshole. But it's not like there's no like evil plan. It's just he's opening all these Cobra Kai dojos all over the valley, and he wants to go national or international and have Cobra Kai dojos all over the world. And it's like, oh, so he's doing it for like money and stuff. But it's like he was rich before he joined Cobra Kai. Like he's a millionaire, a billionaire in the show before.
So it's a power thing, but he's doing nothing with the power?
No. So like his evil plan is like, you find out by the end of the season that there's like, so every season pretty much ends with them going to the All Valley tournament and having like dojo versus dojo kind of thing. Where this is like, it doesn't end with a fight at the tournament. He goes, well, there's a world karate championship that most people don't know about called the Saikai Taikai, which they say like a ton, and it's just like so jarring, like that it's like, oh, the Saikai Taikai, yes. Well, if we go to the Saikai Taikai, it's just like, and they kept saying this, and the fact that the words are so similar, it's fucking me up. And obviously they say Cobra Kai like 30 times an episode.
Hey, good drinking game.
So yeah, so his evil plan is to get Cobra Kai into that tournament and win that tournament. So I guess Terry Silver's legacy can continue of being like the world's greatest dojo. It's not like his plan is just to be like known. Okay. But he's already rich. He doesn't need money. It's like
it's an ego thing.
I guess it's like he's never hit much like Kreese. Neither one of them have ever had kids, and so like if they die, they have nothing to their name. It's like Cobra Kai would be their legacy. That's what
Okay.
so it's like.
But can't you do that without being a huge prick?
You would think, but like, Kreese was always just like, all right, well, I'll send my students to go fuck up your students or whatever, and he just, they're making, even though Kreese was like the villain for the first few seasons, they're kind of making him into like, he's not really that bad. He's the last villain to join, like this was 5, so season 6 would be like Kreese probably joining the crew of Danny and Johnny to take down Silver. In season 6 kind of feels like it would be the final season, but you never know. This show could go for 10 more seasons.
And is this the big Asian dude from Karate Kid 3?
No, he's a tall white guy who's actually, he looks way older than what's his name?
Johnny and Daniel?
Yeah, but Ralph Macchio is what I'm saying. But he's actually a year younger, which is weird. But anyway, it's just because he's tall and has great silver hair.
Is he an established character from the series of
Yes,
movies?
he was in the movies.
Okay.
But the villain from the second movie, the Asian guy, he is part of Team Daniel and Johnny, and he helps at the dojo with them. And so he's actually kind of one of the more fun characters. Like, his sort of fish out of water. Like, he's from Japan, and he's mixing with all these American people, and he's got all this Japanese wisdom. But he has a fight scene with Terry Silver where they like pull out swords like and try to like kind of murder each other. And I was like, oh, he should die in this fight, and then he doesn't or whatever.
Of course not.
And it's just like, oh man, that would have been not like, to raise some stakes on the show. You kill off a major character, and you can kill off Chosen, because Chosen's the Asian guy, and it wouldn't be like devastating to the show, but it would raise stakes. Like, you're not going to kill off any of the teens. You're not going to kill off Johnny and Daniel. So like, he'd be the one to get rid of. And it's just like, oh well, he gets sliced with the sword a couple times, and he like is all bloody, but the ambulance shows up and he's fine. It's like no one ever really gets hurt that bad,
except for the put him in a body bag guy,
who does end up in a body bag.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we
talked about that. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, it's definitely the weakest season of the show.
Is there going to be a 6?
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God.
I think this show is one of Netflix's biggest shows.
That's crazy.
It's
funny that YouTube Red or YouTube TV tried to put in like, look, we have something cool. Please do our subscription, and everyone's just like, nah, man.
It's like, I think it got good reviews in season 1, but everyone's just like, I'm not paying for YouTube.
Yeah, I got enough
other
Netflix
shit. Is like, we'll buy it, and it becomes like this huge thing.
That's
it's like,
great.
There's so many Cobra Kai fans. Like, there's people at work who are talking about it and like who really, really enjoy it. I'm surprised that I'm enjoying it. This is my She-Hulk, where it's like, I recognize the bad of it, but it's just enjoyable enough. So that's season 5.
Okay. Well, my last thing is kind of long, so I think you should do another one.
Okay. So I watched Licorice Pizza, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, director of Magnolia, and There Will Be Blood, and Boogie Nights, all movies that I really, really enjoy. And this is one of those movies, I saw the trailer, I was like, you know what, it looks good, but I don't think I care.
Yeah.
And I was bored one day, and I was like, you know what, let me give this a shot. He's a good director. He probably won't steer me wrong. And I did enjoy it quite a bit. It is a coming-of-age story. For those who don't know, it's a young boy who's an actor. He's 15 in LA in the Reagan era, or I believe. Boy meets girl. She's 24 when they meet, I believe, and she works for the company that does high school photos. And he's just like, he asked her on a date, and she's like, no.
Isn't he like 15?
He's 15, yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, so they kind of form a friendship, and for the whole movie, it's kind of like a will they, won't they kind of thing. Like, he's clearly very mature, and he's like starting businesses. Like, he starts his own like mattress, a waterbed mattress thing, because waterbeds are the new thing in like the 80s or 70s or whatever. And so like he gets into that game, and he's making a bunch of money, but he's not necessarily doing it legally, so that gets busted. And then they're going on adventures, and like she's trying to get into acting gigs, and she's going on dates with like other men, which makes him jealous. And whenever he kind of dates a new girl, she gets jealous, but they never like kiss or whatever. And like there's cameos from like Bradley Cooper and Sean Penn have little scenes, and it's just a really well made, like fun, sweet movie of these two characters who like clearly have feelings for each other but never really act on them. And the problem is, like, one, I don't know how much time passes in the movie by the time it's over, because like he opens up his own arcade. Because he's a businessman. He's a hustler and he's working. And it's like, I don't know if he's 18 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I would think you'd have to be an adult to own your own business unless like his mom or whatever is signing like things and he's just running it because like his mom's kind of helping him run all of his other businesses. So I don't know if a couple like a year goes by or if multiple years go by because by the end, do you want spoilers?
I do kind of want to watch. Is it crucial for you to tell me these spoilers in order to get to a point?
No, I guess my one point would be like if you did this and you reverse the genders of the character,
I was going to say the
would
same
people be
thing.
more pissed off?
Yeah,
because it just seems like if this was a 24-year-old man
and a 15-year-old
or a
girl,
15-year-old girl is just like, hey, like. I want to date you, like, show me your penis, people would be like, oh, well, that's kind of fucked up that they showed it. But it's like, in the trailer of the movie, you see that he's like, hey, can I see your boobs? And in the trailer, she shows him the boobs. It's like, oh, so a 24-year-old woman can expose herself to a 15-year-old boy. And it's like, come of age.
It's a cute slice of life.
Yeah, it's like, I'd be interested to see, like, could you make this movie if the reverse was possible?
As long if you made sure that the older dude absolutely rebuffed her at every moment, you can do the story. You could have a girl looking up at someone who's 9 years older and going, oh man, that's the man of my dreams. But as long as he says no, no, no every single time, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Then you flash forward and it's like, oh, I'm 25 now. And like, oh, I'm 34. Or maybe, then
sure.
That's fine.
But I'll say that I'm not sure if they do that.
Okay.
Like I said, I just don't know where the timeline fits in this. And maybe that answer was there and I missed it. But I did really enjoy it. It's by no means my favorite of his. I wouldn't say it's a must-see. I think if you're just a fan of Paul Thomas Anderson, it's a very well-made movie. It feels like a slice of life at the time, kind of reminiscent of Dazed and Confused and all that kind of stuff. And just like a really sweet tale of these two characters who have feelings for each other, and it's and the kind of wacky shenanigans they get into. It just seems like, man, like I wonder what my life would have been like if I grew up in California where there was this. It seems like California is such a different world, even though it's in America.
Yeah.
And, everyone has similar like growing up stories, but to grow up in a world where they're like movie stars and the rich and famous were nearby,
especially if you're
and you could,
really
like,
on the coast.
And I feel like kids in LA or whatever grow up faster than kids who grow up in like small town
same
Nebraska
as you could say is like New York,
Yeah. So I'd say if you're bored one day and you want a movie to watch, check it out. I don't think you'll hate it.
Seen all the other PTA's movies.
The only I haven't seen Phantom Thread.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Which was also like Licorice Pizza was nominated for an Oscar. Phantom Thread was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Neither one won
Yeah.
Best Picture.
I heard
but,
Phantom Thread was awful though.
We'll see. Like I saw an interview with they did like a director's panel with like P.T. Anderson and Jordan Peele and the woman who did Lady Bird, I forget her name, and like another director or two. And Jordan Peele is just like praising Phantom Thread. He's like, I was watching it and going like, oh wow, like this is the difference between movies and cinema. Like clearly a huge fan of P.T. Anderson.
Okay.
That being said, Phantom Thread looks boring as shit.
Yeah, I'm not.
I love Daniel Day-Lewis, but I'm also not going to sit there and just see him go like, oh, really. This dress makes me so angry because of my love of this woman. And say, whatever.
I don't think that's what that movie's about.
He's a fashion designer and his muse is a woman. It's all about their love.
But isn't it about like sewing hidden messages into dresses?
I don't know.
Yeah, whatever. Well, so what would you give it? Like letter score?
B.
Okay.
Yeah. Enjoyable, worth a watch, but not necessarily a you got to see it.
Cool. I watched a new movie today and a newer movie. I watched Vengeance with BJ Novak. It's fine. I feel like it thinks it has a lot to say, or it has something to say, but it doesn't really answer any of the things that it poses. It's just kind of like, oh, think about this and think about that, and just you think about it. Don't tell me to tell you what it is. You do it. It's fine. I also saw.
Don't Worry, Darling.
Don't Worry, Darling. Which I could go on longer, but you kind of really need to talk about spoilers about it, so I'm not going.
I do plan on seeing it.
And Florence Pugh is great. everyone's pretty good in the movie. I really liked it. It's getting really shit reviews because it doesn't explain a lot of things. And sure, I'm someone who likes, if it really does need like maybe 2 more minutes just to give a little bit at the end, but it's fine if you don't. There is stuff throughout that you go, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, what about this? And you just have to come to your own conclusion. And for this movie, I'm fine with it. I really enjoyed it. Gave it a B+.
Okay.
But I really want to talk about this random movie I found on, was it Prime? No, I think it was Shudder.
Okay.
It's called Landmine Goes Click.
Okay.
It had such a weird title that I just kind of had to.
I mean, I think it's a cool title.
Yeah. So, spoilers for Landmine Goes Click. I'm going to run through the whole movie. So there's 3 friends, 2 guys who have been friends forever, and a woman who is marrying one guy. So there's the groom, the bride, and the best man. They are in Georgia, Russia. Don't forget to mind your P's and Q's.
So many community references. We're killing it. And they're all Donald Glover jokes, too.
Yep. So they're just hiking, and they're about to get married. And the best man is talking to the bride and is like, look, we fucked in the past, and you need to tell him before you get married. And she's like, look, he doesn't suspect anything. I don't want to be with you. Let's drop it. And so they make camp, and they meet up with this Russian dude who's going to be their tour guide, and he is going to take a picture of them. And so they're all 3 huddled together, and he's like a little forward, a little back, a little left, a little right, and the best man steps on a landmine, and they're like, oh fuck, this was a war-torn area. This may be a dud, maybe it's real, who knows, but don't move. So the Russian guy runs off to go get help, but he's like, it's going to take me like 4 hours just to get to the closest town. Then it's going to take me time to get in contact with the right people, and then to come back. So you're going to have to stand still for a very long time. So groom and bride are freaking out trying to think of a way to get him off. And it turns out the groom knows. And he's planned this the whole time. The Russian guy was in on it. So he's like, yep, you're a whore. You're an asshole. You guys deserve each other. Fuck you. Have fun. He leaves him a shovel, and it's like, from what I hear, the best thing to do is dig a very big trench and then throw yourself in it as quick as you can. Maybe you'll only lose your foot, maybe a leg. Who knows? But that's your best bet. So she's having to start to dig a hole. Oh, yeah, and also, it's kind of funny at the beginning. The best man's like, I bet this isn't even a real landmine. And the groom is like, oh, yeah? And he picks up a chain that was hiding under the dirt, and he pulls the pin out. And like, well, you had a chance to get off of it, but now it's live. This whole, this first half hour, you could have moved, but now it's activated. So then he's just like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's just like, fuck you both. You guys are terrible. I'm out of here. And he leaves. And we never see him again. Him and the Russian guy, they were going to go up on a rock and watch it happen, but he's like, nah, I don't like this. Let's just get out of here. I'm like, okay. Never see him again. Doesn't get his comeuppance or anything like that. So put him out of your mind. So she's starting to dig this hole. They're trying to put the pin back in, but it's not working, and they're freaking out. And this hunter comes... he just comes out of the woods, and he thinks they're like burying a body or something. He doesn't know what's up. But they're like, please help us dig the hole. I've been doing it for hours, and it's not nearly as deep enough. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, I'll help you. But then he instantly turns into a super creep. He's like, well, how did you get in this situation? And they keep saying like, none of your business, none of your business. And he finally works it out of them. Oh, you're a whore. Oh, I see. Oh, you kind of deserve this, but I'll help you anyways. But he wants something in return, of course. So he wants her underwear. And so she's going to go change. No, you got to change it in front of me. And then he takes it, and he's like smelling it and putting it in his pocket. And he has a dog with him, and he's making the dog smell it. And then like, oh, he has a walkie-talkie. She's like, please let us use your walkie-talkie. Well, I want something for it. And I'm going to throw your panties. You're going to get on your hands and knees, and you're going to go get it and pick it up with your mouth and bring it back to me. And then gives her the walkie. Well, everyone on the other side of the walkie-talkie speaks Russian. Oh, you want me to translate for you? I'll do that. But I need something from you. He's just being the biggest asshole creep. He's this disgusting man.
I really like this movie up until this point. I was really into it.
And so the guy on the landmine's just like, ooh, you fucking get close to me, I'm going to fucking kill you. And he's just like, oh yeah, what are you going to do? You going to step off of that? And so it gets to a point where he's like, yeah, I'm going to rape you. You know, this is what's going to happen. You're a whore. This is what we do to whores. And the guy on the landmine is able to get his gun. Like, she goes running off. The hunter chases her. He leaves the gun behind. He grabs the gun. And so the hunter comes back with a knife to her throat. And it's like, oh, you're going to shoot me? Well, the gun has it's a spread blast, you know, for hunting like quail. You may hit me, but you're probably going to kill your little friend here. And he doesn't take the shot. And he wants to, but he doesn't want to hurt her. And then, so of course, she gets raped. Yeah, and it goes on for a long time. It's really gross. And then so there's the guy with the gun is just screaming like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And the dog runs at the dude and knocks him off the landmine. He fires the gun at the dude, but it doesn't hit, and the landmine doesn't go off. It was a fake. The groom just wanted to torture them. He was never gonna blow them up. So, but in all that confusion, the hunter has stabbed the woman and she's dead. And so he's like crying and he's like, look, dude, you watch way too many movies. Landmines, you step on it, it blows up. It doesn't wait for you to pick up your foot for it to blow up. I don't know how true that is, but it's just like, that's a Hollywood myth thing. It's like defibrillator paddles. They're not really there to like, you know, start a stopped heart. They're there to regulate your heartbeat because it's, you know, whatever. Anyhow, it's just a thing that we've gotten wrong because of movies. And so he's crying. Cut to black. Oh, Hunter fucks off with the dog. Cut to black. And we're like, this is an hour and 40-minute movie, and we're at like an hour 5. I'm like, Jesus Christ, there's still a lot of this left. This movie seems to be over. So then fade back in. There's a woman and her daughter, and she's just like, oh, mother, I want to go into town. No, your friends will take you to the disco. You're just 16, and boys are going to kidnap you and sell you to some Saudi prince. No, you're not going to do that. And just like, Mom, you got to let me grow up. And then so a backpacker comes to their house, and it's like, oh, I'm lost. Do you have a map? Oh, your food smells good. Can I join you for dinner? And it's the dude from the landmine, and he's just like playing it up, being real nice. And then the hunter walks in. This is his family. So they do a thing, like, he's just like, get the fuck out of my house, you know? And it's like, no, I'm having my meal. Can't I just finish? Like, no, get the hell out of here. Convinces them to get out without raising too much suspicion with his family. He's like, look, I get it. You're here for revenge. Let's go to that field in about 15 minutes, and we'll beat the shit out of each other until the last man standing. Whatever. Just leave my family out of this. So he agrees, and then he like gets his dog and like hurts it real bad. So he comes running back in like, oh, I accidentally hit your dog. I'm so sorry. I know I just left, but I'm here now. And the hunter is like fighting with him. He's like gonna go get his gun, but somehow he's taking all the bullets out of the house. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's this end part is edited so kind of poorly, and it could have been handled in a much better way. But the landmine dude pulls out a 6-shooter with a silencer on it and shoots him in the knees, and calls the wife and the daughter and is like, look, your husband's a piece of shit and I'm gonna get mine, and so let's drag him into the living room. And then he just goes off the deep end. He does everything that the hunter did to his friend to the hunter's daughter, and in like rapid succession. Oh, I want your underwear, and makes her pull it off, and oh, crawl on all fours and get it, and everyone is just screaming at the top of their lungs and crying. Oh, and then he takes the hunter's daughter's panties and puts it in the hunter's mouth, and it's like, if these drop out of your mouth, I'm gonna blow your brains out and stuff. And just, it's really disgusting. And so he's getting to the point where like, I want to make you strip. It's something that the hunter did. The hunter did so many fucking things, like little aggressions and stuff.
I'm exhausted listening.
I know, it's almost over. So he has the 6-shooter, and he takes all the bullets out, and he's going to play Russian roulette with her. And like, look, if you're going to undress, and I'm going to spin it, and then I'm going to fire. And then you're going to take off another thing, and I'm going to spin it, and I'm going to fire. And if you don't take off your clothes fast enough, I'm going to add another pull of the trigger to it. And, he's saying, please do it to me. And the mom's like, let me do it. Let my daughter go. And he's like, no, it's got to be her. And he's just getting in her face and like, spin, click, spin, blam, blows her brains out. And then he comes to the realization of like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And you could hear the parents just screaming and wailing. And it just holds on him for at least 3 minutes. And the realization of, getting revenge isn't always, isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And then the movie's over. And that's it. And when you see a movie like this, when someone does something fucked up to like really good people and the bad guy gets away and like, ooh, wouldn't it be great to do that same thing back to him? Starve him, chain him to a tree, whatever he did to you, that would be great. And it's a fun idea. But when you involved his wife and his daughter who have no idea he's this type of person and they're just being tortured for his sins and they're just perfectly innocent people, am I supposed to be rooting for this dude in this point? Like, yeah, I get why he wants to do this, but it gets to a point where like, no, you're just as bad. And I think if they would have handled it a little better when he's eating dinner and the hunter is like, get out of my house, and he slowly pulled out the gun and made it like a really tense, methodical thing of him exposing the husband to the wife and daughter and having them turn on him, that's more interesting. But just going, oh yeah, you did a bunch of rapey shit, well, I'm going to do a bunch of rapey shit.
Well, like, you could have done a thing where his buddy who like teamed up with the Russian guy was just like, oh, we were gonna watch, but then we decided not to, and they left. Like, what if they like did watch, had the camera recorded everything, and then at the end you thought like, oh, he's coming back for the dad, just like, oh, we don't have any proof, and then oh, he like kind of forgave his buddy for doing this shit to get back at this guy. Maybe not necessarily like forgive him, but just like, sure, hey, you have that tape of this guy doing this shit to the girl we both cared about at one point. Play that video and so like you can still have that, like, these people now know who he is and kind of like he's suffering for what he did to her. Sure. And you could do that kind of thing. And it's like, and it brings back in the character who like originally was just like, oh, what a fucked up thing. It's like, okay, well now they're teamed up again. So you kind of like have a little bit of connection. It's like you can kind of root for them because they both got over the thing to do something worse to someone worse. Or
the groom with the Russian dude, they're watching and they go, oh, who's this hunter? Oh, is he going to help? And then he sees the fucked up shit and he's finding it funny. Like, haha, she's getting it even worse than I expected. But then it starts getting too far. And they're like, well, shit, do we step in?
He's got a gun.
He has the gun, but like... I didn't expect them to die or actually get hurt. I just wanted to scare them. And then now he's in a conundrum of whether to help. Like, there's ways they could have handled this. Yeah. And just reading the synopsis of guy steps on landmine and is tormented by someone from the woods. I thought it was a little more horror-esque. Right. And how do you do a horror movie where you can't move and you have to defend yourself? Like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
The fact that it goes into like weird pervert fantasy shit, it's really gross and it's really effective. Like, you really feel for these people, what they're going through, and the mind games he's playing. He does a really good job of it, but it's really gross to watch. And and by the end, it leaves such a poor taste in your mouth that all the interesting ideas are out the window, and it just feels like someone who kind of has this as their own fetish and kind of gets off on this sort of thing, and they had the money to make a movie, so they decided to. So I gave it a D+ because the initial idea is really fun.
Yeah, like the concepts alone, I was really into it. For the first 5 minutes of your explanation, I was like, this movie sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And then you got into all the rapey stuff, and then I was like, oh, this movie sounds like hot dog shit.
Because it's just like any movie that we talked about where you're stuck in one location, and how do you sustain that? Okay, man's stuck on a landmine. What are all the fun little things you can do to try to get out of that situation? That's interesting. Throwing in a rapist you can't stop because you can't move, it doesn't follow the same line of what we're doing with these characters and what they're supposed to be learning. They're just, they're on fire and they jump into the water and there's sharks in there, and then the fire never went out. So yeah, bad movie, good title, good interesting clickbaity title, but I don't recommend it unless you're into that really like gross torture porn type of stuff.
If you are,
yeah, what's wrong with you? Just watch regular porn. So yeah, that was Landmine Goes Click. That's my last thing.
Okay, all right, last thing, and we'll wrap up this episode.
Cool.
I watched a movie called Memories of Murder, directed by Bong Joon-ho, who you might know, who directed the Oscar-winning film Parasite, big hit out of Korea. This was his first sort of major studio release, I guess. He did one film before this called Barking Dogs Never Bite. We'll just write that off as like essentially a student film. Like no one saw it.
What year did this come out?
This was 2003.
Okay.
This came out.
And was Host after this?
Host was after. Okay. Host was 2006.
Okay.
So this is based on a true story about a serial killer in South Korea, and the detectives who are just trying to track him down. The serial killer is essentially sexually assaulting and murdering women. And
got some fun topics. This
yeah.
A lot of incest, weird marriage,
but
rape.
you never see any of the assaults or murders really happen.
Okay.
I mean, there are points where you see women get like taken, but you don't see any of like it's not graphic.
They're not crawling on all fours, retrieving their panties with their mouth.
No.
Pass.
But this movie is fucking awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's great. It's if you like David Fincher films, Zodiac, it's Zodiac in Korea.
Okay.
Because like Zodiac, it was a real case that they tried to solve, and it's gorgeously shot. Like this is clearly the work of like a master director, like right out the gate. I mean, this movie's on IMDb top 250. Like I've heard of it, but it's just one of those things. Like even though like I do enjoy foreign films, I don't really seek them out that often unless I hear like great things. And so this has been on my list of things to watch for a while, especially because I've liked every movie he's ever made of Okja and Snowpiercer is incredible. Parasite I love. So like he's got a track record of good things, and this is like essentially the first big movie he ever made, and it's so fucking good. Like probably it might be in my top 25 movies of all time. Like
wow.
I really liked it. And there's this one shot where so like a woman is walking in the rain and she's walking to I think like the factory she works at, or walking from the it's like so like all these murders essentially take place in this like field area, which I don't, if you're a woman who's heard of these murders, I don't know why you would ever walk through there anyway. But it doesn't matter. And she's just walking and it's raining and it's dark and she hears like this whistle and she's like looking out through the field and she can't see anything, and then she's like has a flashlight and she pans over here and then like the camera's facing her, and while she's looking over this way, like you just see a head pop out from the reeds and then just go back down. It's so scary and effective. Oh, it's awesome. And
is it a team of people trying to kill women?
No, it's just
one dude. Okay.
Just one guy, or you know, at least they never. Whatever, I'll let you.
Okay.
There's more to it. I guess I don't want to spoil anything for you because I want you to watch it.
All right.
But yeah, it's just it's like three detectives and their captain, but mostly it's just these two guys. But they're all like crooked cops. Like I guess Korean police force in the 80s were like real bad. Like they're torturing suspect. There's a mentally challenged character who like kind of stalked one of the victims because he thought she was so pretty. So they were like, oh, this guy had to have done it. And so they're like trying to recreate the crime with him there. And there's like all these newspaper outlets like filming them, like making this person with a mental disability like try and like recreate his murder. And like there's this one, it's like this beautiful tracking shot of like the dad who's is the mentally challenged son. He's like run at them and everyone's screaming and yelling and it's like they're just following him, and then it's just like this kind of like almost like big brawl as like the newspaper outlets in the back. It's just it's incredibly shot. But they're like just beating and torturing this like mentally challenged person who doesn't even really understand what's going on, and they're trying to just like pin these crimes on this guy just like because they just assume it's him.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's gonna look like a win for us if this is the guy. But there's one guy on the team who's just like, this isn't the guy. Like we need to catch the real person. And eventually they all kind of like really get into like catching this guy, and they have this one suspect who's just like seems like it's got to be him, but do they or do they not have the proof necessary? And it's fantastic. It's so good. And you know, 2003 is like not that long ago, but sometimes you watch a movie from 2003 and it's like, man, these jokes don't hold up. This technology doesn't hold up. It doesn't look good. It hasn't aged well. But this movie is just so fucking good. I love Memories of Murder. I highly recommend it to anyone who loves serial killers and suspense thrillers. It's not necessarily like a fast-paced crime thing that's kind of constantly have you on the edge of your seat, but it's just so so well made and so beautifully shot. It's something special. And it's like, if I had seen this in 2003, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch everything that this guy makes. And obviously I did over time, but it was just like he never became someone who's like, oh, this is the guy, until I saw Parasite. Even though Snowpiercer is one of my favorite films as well. It's just like, oh, seeing Parasite made me go like, okay, this solidifies this guy is great. And then I watch Memories of Murder. I'm like, okay, this guy's one of the best ever. He's one of my favorite filmmakers now.
You would say this is his best movie he's made?
Yes. I have a soft spot for Snowpiercer, but that's a little bit more fun and kind of out there. But this is like, if I had to classify something as like, if there's one thing to represent him, I'd say it's this. Like this and Parasite are like cinema. But Memories of Murder is just so engaging, and I loved every moment of it, and it's great,
good at what he does. But I really disliked Host. I think Host is a bad movie. It's dumb characters and an ugly monster. I just was not into that one. But everything else he's done that I've seen, love it.
Yeah, I think I saw Host on like IFC back in like 2007, so I don't really remember the Host all that well. So I mean, that could very well be... I might look back at that movie now and go like, oh, it's just okay. Like, I really don't remember the Host that much. But, yeah, Memories of Murder is...
Did Nick recommend this to you?
I don't think so. Because I texted you both and asked if you've seen it.
It sounds like something that he would have...
I know he owns it.
Yeah, of course. He owns everything.
And then I texted him after I watched it and just like, have you seen this? And he's like, yeah, because he bought the Criterion film and watched it. And I think he said he liked it, but I never had a conversation with him about it, I don't think. But yeah, I would say, because I know you're a fan of Seven and Zodiac, watch this. I think even if you're not blown away by it, you're just like, oh, it was you. I think you'll recognize why it's good.
Would you say he's Korean Fincher?
Oh, for
I think
sure.
Style-wise, yeah. Like I mean,
Fincher's never done a kids movie. Well, not that Oak is necessarily a kids movie,
sure,
but yeah, I think.
But I think if you look at Parasite, and you look at what's it called? Secret. Danger Room? No, what the fuck is that called?
Oh,
Panic Room.
Panic Room, yeah.
Panic Room. And
Panic Room is Parasite, and then Memories of Murder is Zodiac, and I guess Snowpiercer would be Alien 3.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, just like look-wise, I can see like if David Fincher were to do Parasite, it would look very similar.
Yeah, and I know...
and they're also really good at like integrating special effects into just like regular, normal scenes, and yeah.
Yeah, I watched, there was a pretty famous YouTube channel called Every Frame a Painting.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, who stopped making videos years ago, but he did one specifically on Memories of Murder and the ensemble shots, and he just like praised the cinematography of this film, and I'm a big fan of really well done cinematography, and like not and like having all your characters in frame versus like constantly cutting back and forth between two characters having a conversation and everything.
Shot,
just
reverse
like
shot.
Yeah, it's like I never really thought that much about it, but it's just like there's so much dialogue that happens without like the camera constantly going back and forth between close up, close up, close up, close up, where it's just like it keeps everyone in frame, and it's like telling a story in the background while people are talking in the front. He's so fucking good, and I'll see any movie he makes from pretty much here on out.
What is this on?
It's currently on Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll watch it. This year has been such a big TV year for me. It's every day I have like a new show I need to catch up on, and sometimes it's hard to squeeze in a movie because I'm assuming this is over 2 hours as well.
I think it's like 2:05 though. It's not like
it's not 2:40 or anything.
It's not 2.5 or anything like that.
Yeah, but still,
it's 2:10 I think tops.
Yeah, I will definitely get to it because it sounds awesome and it sounds right up my alley.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think you'll dislike it. If you think it'll be his best, maybe not. I don't know, because I'm constantly wrong about what I think you'll like. But I definitely think that this movie might be in my top 25 of all time.
Okay. Sounds awesome. Well, what are we doing next week? Next week is episode 50.
Oh,
the big 50. It's
halfway to 100, guys.
Monetize us. The two big releases are Smile and Bros, which I love Billy Eichner, but I don't know if I'm going to pay to see Bros. I bet it's very funny, but I don't know if I'm going to pay to see it.
See, I thought you were getting tired. Or maybe you're just tired of Billy on the Street.
Yeah, Billy on the Street. I couldn't do like episode after episode after episode because his screaming gets
Sure,
to me.
okay.
Like, he has the perfect format for TikTok, where it's one interaction with one person and it's 15 seconds and boom, you're on to the next thing. That's the best way, because sometimes he's a bit much, but he's playing a different character. He's not his extreme self. He'll reel it in.
Did you see his new one he did with Paul Rudd, where they're in Bros t-shirts?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, you want to see our new movie, Bros?
And
yeah.
the guy's like, will you carry me there? Yeah. And then like one woman's just like, oh, no, thank you. No, can't do it now. So there's that. We can try to do our cream soda taste test.
Yeah.
I have three cream sodas lined up. That's not enough for a taste test. We got to have at least 7, I think. But we need more content than just like, this is good. I like soda.
I mean, we could do a this meets that.
Yeah, maybe make me watch something.
I make you watch Memories of Murder.
Oh no! Well, hey, you'll probably get one that's actually good. And then I come in and be like, Steve, what the fuck? This is the worst one.
I'd rather watch Grand Piano again.
In fact, I did. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
50 should be special, I guess.
Yeah. We could just go out of left. I mean, I feel like a cream soda review episode would be a out of left field thing, but maybe it's just
we don't do enough with this thing is all things consumed, and we don't talk about food nearly as much.
Like every 50 episodes we just do like a cooking episode.
Like I had Wendy's pretzel pub burger. It's great. I love that thing. Oh, and I tried their strawberry frosty for the first time. It's exactly how you'd expect it to taste. Have you ever had strawberry quick or Nestle strawberry milk?
Yep.
It's like that. I'd probably get chocolate or vanilla anytime, but that's generally with any sort of ice cream. I'd get chocolate or vanilla over strawberry. So, like, I'm not upset that it exists, but it's good. Have you consumed any new foods?
I mean, not anything to write home about, I guess. See, I'm the kind of person who, like, I'll find a new food and go like, oh, that's good, and just immediately forgot I had it. Like, I just eat it so fast, and just like I'm just so excited about the concept of just like gorging myself.
Yeah, Steve's a garbage disposal.
Yeah,
if you guys don't know.
I don't sit and appreciate food in the way like my wife does, where she just like savors every bite and goes like, oh, well, this ingredient's in this like really pops this flavor, and she watches like tons of cooking show. It's like I didn't know what fucking parsley was until I met this woman. I mean, I know what parsley is. It's just like I've heard so many terms, and like we watched Great British Baking Show, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize you do that in cooking. But if you ask me to like name you ingredients, you'd be like, huh?
Yeah.
What? I don't know.
And Steve's taste buds aren't on his tongue. They're more like they're in his stomach, but they're only activated by weight. So he has to put as much in as fast as he can so we can register whether he likes it or not.
Yeah. If I finish the entire meal in like under 3 minutes and it fills me to the point where I don't want any more, that's a good meal.
How do you react in a buffet? I don't know if I've really... I mean, I know my Chinese buffet I've taken you before, but do you slow it down there knowing that the food is not going anywhere and you have as much as you want?
No, absolutely not. The buffet is like where I'm at my worst because that's where I taste I love it because it's a bunch of different flavors, obviously, but I gorge myself more because I know there is no limit. The only limit is how much my stomach can take. So it's like I purposely go like, okay, I'm gonna have 4 plates of food. I'm gonna have my noodles and meat dish, and then I'm gonna slow it down, have my fruit dish, then go back to another serving of different meats and noodles, and then finish it off with like a dessert plate. So I have 4 courses every time I go to a buffet, and if like you're just like, hey Steve, we need to leave in like 15 minutes, I'm gonna have those 4 courses in 15 minutes. I'm just gonna get them all at the same time and just like scarf it down like I'm Scooby-Doo. But if we have an hour, I can like space it out because that. But also we're talking. But if we just have a quiet meal, that meal's gonna be done in 20 minutes. So I love flavors. But if you ask me, hey Steve, name 3 of the flavors you had, what?
Or it's like the flavor. It's like, ooh, that tastes good. And then like your brain forgets it, so you have to keep shoveling it in so you can try to
create
blindfolded
me and like ask me to like tell you the flavors. I probably would forget instantly because like the only way I would remember is if I'm looking at it as I'm eating. Go like, well, what that tastes like? Oh, it kind of tastes soy saucy.
You're like orange chicken. Then by the time you eat the next thing, and like, well, what was that last thing? I don't know, crab. Did you write it down? Because I do not know.
Yeah. The point is, it's in me now. That's what's important.
Well, we'll figure out what we're going to do next week. If you want to get in contact with us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. Also, WRPL Podcast on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, but there's no videos there. But, give it a follow. So it's more than just bots that are following me. Any webpage I make, whether it's for myself or for this podcast or whatever, it's just Bot City. Like, we got like 200 followers on our TikTok, but it's just bots. It's all bots. It's all Lisa 721-847-5301, and then like Big Boob Honey 729-777-87654. They're all a name and then a string of numbers, and of course they don't have anything on their pages. They're only like a day old, and I don't know what is it with me. Is it something about my phone number that it triggers these things? But yeah, we got
I'm sure
lots.
there's some algorithm that just scours the internet and just
Except our YouTube channel. We don't get a bunch of like fake shit. It's like real users, which is cool. I don't want it. But
Right,
if I was going to inflate any of our numbers that would help us, it would be the YouTube channel.
Yeah, well, you look at something like Instagram, and that's owned by Facebook, so that's all corrupted.
Yep.
And TikTok is owned by like Chinese companies. So
There's an American company as well. It's like they work. It was created in China, but it's
so
in
I can imagine like YouTube might just be more regulated because
Yeah.
there's children content. I don't know. Whatever. The point is, follow our YouTube channel.
Yeah, please. Don't make us beg. Just do it. Or take like your mom's phone or your dad's phone or your friends when they're not looking and just subscribe to it anyways. It'll come up on their feed and they'll just go, what's that? And they'll just scroll right past it. But it makes the numbers good for us.
Yes.
I think. So hit us up. Do you have any ideas for our 50th? Anything? We could punch each other. We could have a leg wrestling match.
Oh.
We'll do it on Twitch.
1, 2, 3, 4. I declare a thumb war.
My thumbs are kind of short. Oh, fuck. Look at that big.
My thumb just has 2 thumbs on the side.
Your thumb can suplex my whole body. All right, well, yeah. Yada, yada, yada. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Good night. I'm James Earl Jones. I just gave up all my rights to Darth Vader. Yeah.